everybody. Welcome to Fish and Grits, the podcast. I can't say it any other way than that. I can't. This is lucky episode 13. Before we get into news and stuff like that, you know me. I'm Lionel. I'm joined by my co-host Malones. Co-host Malones. Ryan.
What's up, guys?
Marco.
What's happening?
And Micah.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest today. Ryan, do you want to do the intros for our very special guest? Celebrity guest of the week, if you will.
So this is a guy that when we first started this podcast, I was like, that would be really cool to have someone like him on. And then we started off with Andy Bunker, one of our local hosts. And then I was like, you know what? Let me shoot Brett a message on DM on Instagram in his DM, slide up in his DMs real quick and see it, just see. It's worth a shot. And then I got an answer. So the guy that's joining us on the show today, his name is Brett Kollmann. Brett Kollmann is formerly of the NFL Network. He's a contributing writer for SB Nation. He currently hosts on his very successful and very entertaining YouTube channel, The Film Room, where he gives in-depth breakdowns of NFL film, players, NFL prospects, and from time to time, coaches and their schemes and their decisions sometimes get highlighted. Not that any of the Atlanta Falcons coaches have been highlighted there. And now he has his very own podcast called the Bootleg Football Podcast. So I'd like to welcome to the show, Brett Kollmann.
Clearly somebody's watched the Steve Sarkisian video a couple times there, huh?
Hi, Brett.
Yep. Actually, I did one for each, the offense and the defense. Man, I don't remember the last time I did a happy, pleasant Falcons video. Now that I think about it, I'm sorry, guys.
Probably
we don't remember.
Yeah,
We don't remember the last time we were. Hey, Brett, we don't remember the last time we were happy watching the Falcons, so that's okay.
Roughly 60% into the Super Bowl, I'd say was the last time, give or take.
Yeah,
we were great. Yeah, we were all together, right? No, Marco was
before half.
Oh, that Rams game when they beat the Rams was also
that was
it wasn't pretty, but I was happy.
I'll tell you what, I was on an Italian podcast earlier today, and one of the hosts who lives in Milan, he's also a Falcons fan, and he just pretends that game doesn't even happen. Like, nope. Meteor
what game are you referring to?
Yeah.
So, Brett, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I didn't know you existed until I saw that our account's Twitter account follows you. And then I started watching your stuff, and I'm really glad that you're on the podcast, man. Coming from like a fan of like 2 weeks, you do good work, so I really appreciate it.
Happy to hear it.
Are you familiar with the Flight of the Conchords?
Like the band / show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know how Jermaine says Brett, or he goes Brit all the time?
Yeah, that
just
New
letting you
Zealand
know.
accent.
Yeah, if I slip into that, I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to, but, all right, so we've got Kollmann with us for a while, however long he wants to hang out. Let's talk a little bit about the news, everybody. We should get, like, a news, like, theme song, like,
July
from Lionel's bedroom. Yeah. This is Fish and Grits News tonight. So, Pat Mahomes is now a part owner, at least, of the Kansas City Royals. This makes him the youngest male sports franchise owner. The youngest female sports franchise owner is Alexis Ohanian's daughter, Olympia, I think is her name. She's 2 years old. She's part owner of Angel City soccer team out in Los Angeles. They just announced the other day. So she still has
Wait, hold up. Say that again?
So do you know who Alexis Ohanian is, Brett? He's one of the co-founders of Reddit.
Yeah.
So he's married to Serena Williams, and they have, I think, a couple daughters. I think there's
Just
Alexis
one,
Jr. Anyway.
They let 2-year-olds own a soccer team?
She has a part ownership stake in Angel City. Yeah.
Wow, what am I doing with my life? Holy shit.
Not being born to rich parents.
My
God. You want to talk about generational wealth, my G's. There it is.
Right.
My Lord.
So, Patty, I think it's cool that Pat Mahomes is a part owner in anything, especially now that, he just got broke off for $500 million. Eventually he'll make that, you know what I mean? But like, why not turn that into a business investment? I also appreciate that he turned right around and invested in Kansas City,
Right.
instead of being like, I bought a stake in the LA Dodgers or whatever, like one of the Texas teams, you know what I mean? Like he went with the hometown with KC, which is good. Hopefully baseball still exists long enough for him to get some returns on that.
Get some
make some
return on that
impact.
investment.
But that's probably the biggest news the last couple of days. Marco, I know that you were talking a little bit about, I think it was you, minority ownership in sports and sort of how we're seeing an expansion in that. Like, do you want to touch on that at all?
I mean, I always think I think it was Ryan who really brought that up, but I think it's definitely a good thing to see that, even if it's a small percentage. We got like one in the NBA now, and we got a fraction of one in the NFL now, so we're making our way.
And then the MLB now with J-Lo and A-Rod having a stake in it. Well, as soon as if it gets approved, so
Derek Jeter.
Oh, they're in stakes too. They're looking for some of that action.
Don't forget.
I want to
Derek
know
Jeter.
though, if even though because I think the Royals just got sold, like the majority stake got sold for like $1 billion like last year or something like that. So does this mean that technically Pat Mahomes can get a vote on whether to cancel another major professional sports league while also playing in a different professional sports league? Is this a potential scenario here?
Sounds like abuse of power to me. No, but
I mean, it's a boss move if so, but like,
I
Yeah,
definitely think you would have a vote in that.
It's an interesting question. Do you have to recuse yourself in that?
I don't know.
situation, or-
Do you?
Well, there's no real relation between like it's two separate sport leagues, so it's not like
except
there's
for
a conflict
TV
of
ratings?
interest. Yeah. Oh yeah, but do
If
they?
you cancel baseball's postseason,
Right.
which KC might make with 16 teams going into the playoffs, if you cancel the postseason, then there's nothing else to watch except for the NFL until the NFL gets canceled.
Right, but the NFL doesn't ever have to worry about competing with the baseball for ratings.
Depends on how many players decide that they want to protest prior to the games, and then all the anyway, that's neither here nor there. More news. So speaking of the NFL, while we're on the NFL, a bunch of players are just opting out of playing due to the Rona, if we will. Dante Hightower, Michael Pierce, Eddie Goldman. There was a rumor that Mr. Nick Foles had opted out in Chicago, but it turned out to just be a rumor.
You shall refer to him by his proper name. That's Big Dick Nick.
Big Dick Nick, right? I'm thinking about starting one of those Twitter rumors, but like promoting a tweet to do it, so I can optimize my reach. And maybe Brett can get in on this. I know he might not want to sacrifice his journalistic integrity.
I quote tweeted the Foles thing already today with caveats of if this is true. But I mean, the guy seemed pretty confident in it, and I'm not really sure why. I never heard of him before, didn't see a blue check mark or anything like that. So I did do like a caveat of if, but like my main point of showing that story was like, if the Bears didn't go after Cam solely for the reason of getting Nick Foles, and then Nick Foles did opt out,
Yeah,
that's like
tragedy.
I mean, that's beyond worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Well, so when you post something
Which
like
is
that,
very on brand for the Bears.
I mean,
Just
it's
wanna say
very
that.
on brand.
did your followers be like, "That's not true"?
Plenty of them. Which I wasn't saying it was true. I was more saying like, good Lord, I hope it's not, because Chicago fans have to drink enough as is.
I'm cool with that though.
Yeah. I grew up a Bears fan, and a Cubs fan and a Bulls fan and whatever, because I lived right outside of Chicago, and I can confirm that life is already hard enough in that city. We don't need anything else.
You wanted to get away from the heartbreak of being a Bears fan, so you chose the Falcons?
I didn't choose anything, man. I moved down here when I was 15, and I've been here since, except for deployments and such in the military. So when I married my wife, I decided to convert to Atlanta Sportsdom, and that was Matt Ryan's rookie year. So it looked like a really good time to hop on the bandwagon.
You're not a Texans fan like me, so I guess you're doing okay. At least you guys get You get past the
That's my
second
other
round
team,
every now
man.
and then. Oh my god, dude. It's
I play as the Texans in Madden constantly. I love that team.
when we were up like 28-10 or whatever it was on KC, like I literally tweeted out, I was like, the Chiefs are going to win this game. And I was right.
There's no other outcome.
There's no other outcome.
So I think I'm gonna quote a NFL insider named Carlos Peligro, which is danger in Spanish. Do you guys know who Carlos Danger was? Anthony Weiner's
Oh yeah.
like Tinder name or whatever. Yeah.
No, I didn't know.
So I'm gonna quote my NFL insider, and I'm gonna say Michael Thomas is sitting out this season, but not because of COVID concerns, but because he doesn't get enough respect. That's gonna be my rumor. We've been trying to trigger Michael Thomas since week 1, and I'm gonna pull out all the stops. Like I said, I'll drop the $50 to promote that tweet. And then the only other piece of notable news, did you guys know that in 1914, so what is that, 106 years ago today, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated by, was it like the Black Hand, which is like a Marxist cell in Serbia?
A 19-year-old kid.
Yeah, and that kicked off World War I, in which, millions of people died and nothing changed. So
Did you know they actually failed on the first attempt, and then the car like accidentally found the assassin a second time?
Yeah. We were just talking about that right before,
Right.
actually.
I read the story. I
Wild.
saw it on the rundown. I read the story, and I was like, "Whoa, that's interesting."
Yeah, bananas.
Maybe-
Did
should
you
we
guys
tell it
watch
for the people? Should we tell it for the people watching if they don't know
what? The story?
the story?
Go ahead, Marco.
Okay.
Give us a history lesson.
So Franz Ferdinand was in a car, and a bomb blew up behind him that was intended for him and hurt the passengers in the car behind him. So Franz went to the hotel, and he came back out to go and check on the people. And unbeknownst to him, some like how Brett just said, the cars came around, and the 19-year-old dude was sitting at the cafe, and he saw the cars pulling up, and he was like, "Oh, I was gonna wait, but might as well just kill him now." So he walked up to them, shot his wife in the stomach, and shot Franz in the neck. And they couldn't save Franz because he was sewn into his outfit, so they couldn't get to his wound in time. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You get for dressing extra.
Yeah, that's what you get. Did you guys watch 1917?
Yeah.
That shit was really good. I really liked that.
Excellent movie.
The only other piece of news, I just got the notification. Have you guys seen this thing about like the mysterious seeds from China?
No.
So like farmers across the United States, it's like 44 confirmed cases last time I saw, are getting these like packages of seeds that are like unsolicited packages of seeds that are from China. Like they're in Chinese packaging, they're postmarked from China. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Department of Homeland Security are both like, don't plant the seeds. Because I guess like part of the like trade war or whatever that we're doing with China right now is that they're sending us nasty plants. Could you imagine like living in a world in which you're scared of planting things because you might kill your neighbors?
Because I mean, it came from China. We have kudzu here in Georgia. I know all about it. It
Was it
kills your
nuclear?
entire backyard.
It's a nuclear plant?
Man, who knows? Just all right. So if you get some seed, they look kind of like sunflower seeds. If you get some seeds from China, don't plant those shits, please. Just don't do it.
Speaking of
alright.
kudzu, my wife works for Makita, and like 30% of her job is like trying to figure out how to kill kudzu because it just won't freaking die.
It will not.
Kudzu.
We
I
should
pulled
probably
down the
figure out a
same
way to.
vine like 15 times in my parents' backyard.
We need to try to figure out a way to turn it into like plastic or like gasoline or something like that. You know.
I'm on it.
Thanks, Ken.
Marco's in Wikipedia. He's like, yeah. All right, cool. So I think we're going to get into a segment that we like to call Grits Blitz, which is where we have a very special celebrity guest on, like Brent, and we talk about the National Football League. And I'm going to go ahead and let Ryan steer. Take it away, Mr. Dollar.
Before we actually get into your football experience, which you have a large amount of, I do want to highlight one thing that you've done recently that is really impressive to me and actually fits right into some of the things that we do here. And it's your activism on Twitter and on your channel, how you have vehemently taken to Twitter and posted things and spoken on the morality of some of the things that are going on here in the country, and then also opening up your own platform to those who have been affected, especially right after the George Floyd murder by the hands of the police. So that's very impressive, and I appreciate you for that. And that's not something a lot of people do, especially someone like you who your channel is just singularly focused on football, really. And you're like, you know what? I've got a platform. Let's make use of it. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I hope it did some good. I will say the reaction to it was a hell of a lot more positive than I expected, because that's just like not normally what my channel's about. But like my audience was really receptive to it, really happy about it. And I think just kind of sharing some stories that I never could have told myself. Like I grew up as a middle-class white dude. Like I have no experience with oppression whatsoever. So I think, letting people tell their own stories that I never could tell was a lot more impactful than me just like, I don't know, posting a black square or something like that. So right. I hope it did something. I've been donating the proceeds from the ad revenue from that video to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which, obviously that video didn't get as many views as like a normal episode would, but it still got more than I thought it would, which at least for me, like makes me proud of my audience that they were open to that and receptive to that and that they liked what they saw. Very cool. Very, very honorable. So that kind of leads me into my first question, since you mentioned your upbringing. How did you first gain your love for football? I grew up playing a lot of sports, baseball, hockey, basketball. Like I actually, my parents wouldn't even let me play football till I got to high school. And then of course, like freshman year, I get a real bad spinal injury playing hockey because I played all sports at the same time. The boards were not kind to me when I slammed into them at like 20 miles an hour. Totally compressed my spine, and it was not, I actually still have like nerve damage from it like today. And the doctor basically said like, it's a bad idea for you to play a sport like football. You should play literally anything else. But I still loved football more than any other sport, even though I played every other sport my entire life. And so I went up to the coaches and I was like, what can I do? So I joined the film crew, recording every single practice, doing cut-ups. I was there every single day. I joined my high school's TV program so I could work on like broadcasts and stuff like that, because I still wanted to work in sports somehow. Eventually went to film school, landed an internship with NFL Network while I was there, stayed on after I graduated. I was there for 5 years. And every single day, again, even though I never got to like play the sport that I love, I still wanted to do it and be around it. So I would always, pick coaches' brains and go into the green room and ask players questions and, do coaching clinics, still go back to my old high school. Like I went to a major football program called Modern Day, if you've ever heard of it, in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And I did whatever I could to learn everything I could about the game. And then I kind of translated that knowledge base that I built up over a decade into the channel that we see today. Like I always used to joke that, Deion Sanders was who taught me to play press coverage, because he literally did. Like, because I worked with Deion like literally every week for 3 years. And I would go up and ask him questions. I was like, hey, like if you see this split inside the 5, like what route are you thinking? What's your first step? And you just tell me. Like he's Deion, he's genius. Right. And I would just have my little notebook. I'm jotting down notes, and I did that for a long enough period of time that I got like a good level of knowledge that I felt comfortable kind of making my own content, using my skills in production that I had learned over that same time period. And then that kind of created the channel that we see today.
And I mean, I don't remember. I think I told you in my message that I found you because I just happened to be looking up Jalen Collins. I was like, this is a guy that I don't really know too much about.
Wow. Throwback.
He's been rumored to come to Atlanta, and then we finally did get him. And I was like, let me look into him. And I found you. And I was like, man, this is some really high quality breakdown. This is some really intricate film study here that you don't see a lot of on YouTube. And I immediately sent it to Micah, who's on the show, because he, just like me, is a football junkie. And we watch. I mean, Micah played for quite some time, and I'm sure he'll tell you his connection to someone in the NFL here shortly. But it's just impressive, and the level of knowledge that you have for the game, it's coach like. And have you ever thought about getting into coaching? Have you ever thought about trying to make that journey?
Yeah, I've done like one-on-one tutoring with like high school prospects and stuff like that. Especially this year where there hasn't been like a lot of camps at all over summer and stuff like that. So I've done one-on-one work. I've never done like teamwork, mainly just because I didn't have time to go back to like my old school and like be there's, I guess what would be the high school equivalent of like a GA. Because I'll put 60 to 70 hours into every single episode, so I didn't quite have time to go back to school and do 2-a-days in the middle of July or anything like that. But so I'll do one-on-one work with guys every now and then, and I communicate with like various trainers and stuff like that. So like I'll go out to sessions that they're on and kind of like sit and see how they're training young guys, so I can kind of learn for when I'm giving tips for just kind of learning how young kids learn, because that's also part of, I think, is helping players, is like learning the best way to communicate information so that it sticks. So I would love to get into coaching kind of after I feel like YouTube has run its course. But if I am going to coach, I want to like really go all in with it and not half-ass it. And I feel like it would be hard to go all in with it while I'm still doing YouTube.
Definitely cool.
So, he referenced the link. My connection is I was Sean McVay's teammate in high school.
Oh, no shit. When he was Mr. Football.
Yeah, I was the guy who always got in trouble for hitting him in practice because I was 6'1", 270. I was 10 pounds heavier than our biggest offensive lineman. So they couldn't block me a lot of times. So when I actually gave effort, I just dominated and would just be like, oh, crap. I'm bad.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that he deserved Mr. Football over Calvin?
To be honest with you, no. But we also had a guy on our team who got very little shine, but was just as big, if not a bigger playmaker than Sean. His name was Chris Davis.
Oh, no shit.
We played one of our rivals, Tucker, who had former UGA running back Thomas Brown was their star guy. Chris ran through and caught a touchdown pass in that game against them.
Are you talking about the Chris Davis that went to the NFL?
No.
Oh, different Chris. Okay.
He played at Duke. He played at Duke, and of course, that was before Duke was any type of good, so he never got really any NFL looks. But he ran through and caught a touchdown pass in that game, and was our starting free safety on top of that. So he like legitimately never came off the field. And Sean was great, but to me, it was just our coach loved Sean and promoted him over everybody. So
this is why you don't have a
Georgia?
head coaching job.
Are you still in Georgia right now?
Yeah, I am.
Which part?
I'm staying Stone Mountain.
When I was in Atlanta a couple years ago, I was up in Beaufort for like a week, and that's Deshaun Watson territory.
Oh yeah.
I did not realize how much of a legend that dude is in the state of Georgia until I was in Georgia. Like everybody had a Deshaun Watson story. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
We have a lot of local celebrities like that. Him, Cam Newton, Sean, not so much. And a lot of the guys from Tucker get a lot of that too. And Stevenson.
Yeah, Deshaun, I guess, rules like North Georgia for sure.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything on the east side of Lake Lanier is like all Deshaun Watson territory.
Oh, yeah.
This podcast is a Deshaun Watson stan podcast most of the time anyway. So
yeah.
Was it when did he get drafted?
2017.
Mm-hmm.
That was the year. Who did you guys take that year? Was it Keanu?
No.
Tack.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, I was in the build up to that. I was the guy who was yelling that we should trade Matt Ryan and tank for Deshaun. I was like, just take him. Okay.
So are you gonna ask that question, Micah?
No, you can ask me.
Okay. So you sort of mentioned Deion, how Deion Sanders, your experience with him in the camp. But we were curious, like, just working with the NFL Network, what kind of impact of some of these other, some of these guys you get to meet in there, and some of these big stars, some of these legends that you get to meet in there. What kind of impact have they had on your career and, just teaching you and the knowledge they might have passed along?
It's been really amazing. I owe so much to all of them. My producers, the talent that I used to work with there. Like, I was just at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. Was it January or something like that? It seems forever ago. And I was running into kind of all my old colleagues there, all the old talent. Daniel Jeremiah, Charles Davis. And it was because it'd been years since I had been at that network, and it was like we just saw each other, a week ago. It was crazy just how great those friendships were and how solid they still are and how supportive of me they are. It
was genuine.
It was and even though I left, like, that's still my favorite job, working for somebody else that I've ever had.
Right.
And the NFL Network is an awesome place. It really, really is.
So what was the time frame of you working there?
So I was there. My first year was the 2012 season, and then my last day at the network was the day before the Falcons Patriots Super Bowl. I know, a little rough to bring up, but that's the timeline there. So
we got to start the counter. We got to start the counter.
I went from pre-elite Joe Flacco to fall of the Shanahan dynasty.
Okay. Cool. I wanted to ask real quick, because you had mentioned that you played hockey. Where are you from?
California.
Okay, so the camp. You said the camp was in Cali. Okay, cool. Just for context, I didn't know how big hockey was. But then I guess the Mighty Ducks were definitely it.
I forgot about the Mighty Ducks.
That was a Cali thing for sure. All right, so
quack.
So how well do you think the NFL can navigate this difficult season that we're about to come into, with limited fan attendance, players opting out, and no bubble environment like the other leagues? Do you think the players will be able to stay isolated the entire season and sort of curtail this COVID spread?
Dude, we're screwed. There's no way. There's no way. I mean, you got a bunch of 300-pound dudes huffing and puffing in each other's faces for 3 hours. Like, we have 84 plus guys have already tested positive, and we've been in camps for less than a week.
Lord.
With the Marlins situation that's going on right now, and that's baseball. Like, that's the only sport where you can social distance. And
right.
And they've even gotten crushed. Like, I want football to happen, but like, how is this possible? Like, you're gonna have to have all 90-man rosters, because there's gonna be so many dudes getting sick. And even then, okay, let's just say the Falcons win the division. Let's do a somewhat happy scenario here. So you win the division, you get through the wild card, you get through the divisional round, NFC Championship game. New Orleans is coming to town. Matt Ryan tests positive.
Jesus.
What the hell?
You're playing through that, Matt.
What are you supposed to do?
It's the Schaub show, buddy.
I'm a Texans fan. I went through the Schaub show. You don't want that.
We're calling Kaepernick.
Yes. Dude, I guarantee you Kaepernick's holding out for a deal, because he's going to get one. Somebody's going to get sick.
You don't think those Halo style masks, if they introduce those could help?
The Master Chief masks.
If I was a player, I wouldn't want to wear that. You get so hot in there, it's going to cook your brain.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no way. Like, okay, if you're playing outside in Miami in September in that mask, are you kidding me? Hell no.
It'd be rough. Your whole thing would be fogged up.
Oh my
Nothing
god!
but fog.
I mean, it's hard enough getting swamp ass in Georgia, let alone swamp face.
That's something we all know very well. All right, so I think this is a little get back actually for your little shots that you've thrown at us. But you ready to open up a fresh wound there, Brett?
They're always open.
So you've had a lot of time to think it over. You've had a lot of time to really, you've had your 11:30 old fashions. Bill O'Brien traded arguably a top 3 receiver. You could even argue that he's the best receiver in the game for a running back that was not utilized in the system that he currently was. So you probably could have got him for cheap. And a second-round pick. Is Bill O'Brien a genius? Or is he just closing his eyes, throwing darts, hoping one will land? And he's like, look, guys, I'm the next Belichick.
I mean, where do I even begin with this? Okay. First of all, it's a terrible idea to trade DeAndre Hopkins ever, pretty much ever, in the middle of his prime. Like, unless you're getting like a Jamal Adams type deal, maybe. That's like a hard maybe. And we did not get that. We got Brandon Cooks and the corpse of David Johnson. It's just a bad deal.
You got faster. I mean, now your entire wide receiver core probably runs like a 4-3-4.
When they're not concussed.
Yeah.
Which is never. So I don't know. It's a bad, we're trying to win a Super Bowl here. You don't win Super Bowls trading away DeAndre Hopkins. And I get wide receiver, if you're following the analytics crowd, it's not the most valuable position. But do you really want to piss off your franchise quarterback when he's going into a contract year and he wants his security blanket? Are we really doing that?
Nope.
Come on.
As an Atlanta fan, yes, you are doing that. And you're just opening the gates for him to come home when Matt Ryan's 37.
Do you guys have state income tax?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the only thing working in Texas's favor at this point. Then,
I mean, Whataburger.
Yeah, and they already named a street after him, so he's already got that in Georgia. But I don't know. It's a terrible deal. And here's the thing: Houston still has a good roster. They're still going to win a lot of games, but it's 3rd and 10. You're going to be playing Baltimore in the playoffs. You need somebody that can beat Marlon Humphrey. That is not Kenny Stills.
Nope.
It's just not. It's not Brandon Cooks either. It's maybe Will Fuller if he's not shattered into a million pieces by that point.
I was about to say Fuller's
He's good.
Fuller's really good for 6 games a year when he's on the field. And with his injury history, I guarantee you that dude's getting the Rona by week 4. It's impossible for him to not to. So I don't know. I'm not super stoked on it. I felt like it was an unnecessary move when we're trying to win a Super Bowl. It doesn't really accomplish anything for us right now. Because we didn't really get return for it at all, other than saving us from having to pay DeAndre next year, I guess, because the contract issue was really his main sticking point. So Bill really didn't want to pay him, which maybe he completely lucks out because there's rumor that the cap is going to go down because of Corona, which he did not foresee. Let's not pretend that he foresaw that happening because he didn't. That was before the draft. So maybe he lucks out in that way and that we don't get completely screwed in the cap by not having DeAndre Hopkins' contract on the books. But we still have David Johnson's contract on the books, so maybe it's not fully great for us. Either way, I can't see a positive to this trade.
Do you think Bill O'Brien sort of just makes these ridiculous moves just so people can be like, oh, well, he still made the playoffs regardless, despite the fact that he still made it as a, on the fringe. He's still a great coach.
He's a very emotional dude who should not have roster control. He's a good coach in the games. It's the roster control part. He's too emotional. That's what leads to getting in spats with Dwayne Brown and trading him away, trading away DeAndre Hopkins, trading away Jadeveon Clowney. He gets so emotional at the very notion of a player wanting to be paid because he's so used to New England where everybody takes pay cuts so that they can win games. It's that's the Patriots, dude. They do that because they win Super Bowls. You haven't won shit yet. They have no incentive to take less money to play for you until you start winning Super Bowls. So he's trying to skip a whole bunch of rungs on the ladder to be Belichick before he's earned the right to be Belichick.
Right.
You feel like maybe Bill O'Brien took like the wrong lessons from coaching under Belichick, like
Yeah, I mean he took some good lessons in terms of adaptability, second half adjustments and all that kind of stuff, but like the roster management and just expecting everybody to take less money and bow to him, like no, that's not going to happen. Like Tom Brady only took less money because he married Giselle. Like, you think he's not demanding to be paid top 5 every year if he didn't have a supermodel wife that's making $50 million a year? Like, it's an like the Patriots are an unrealistic scenario that will never ever happen again, and Bill O'Brien is convinced that he can make that work. Good luck trying to get Deshaun to not take $40 million a year. Good luck.
So to go about the trade though. So do you think that David Johnson in Bill O'Brien's system can be anything close to what Arian Foster was production wise?
I have a soft spot for Arian. He's one of my favorite running backs of all time. And I honestly don't think I'm ever going to see another back like him in a Texans uniform. David Johnson, when he's healthy, is more talented than Arian was. But Arian's vision, his dead leg cut was just ridiculous. Yeah. His patience, his intelligence, in terms of being like identifying fronts and knowing exactly what he needed to do before he ever got the ball to set up a linebacker and get him to jump in the wrong hole. I mean, you're a defensive lineman. Like, you know better than anybody. Like, you're playing the front side. You're expecting the linebacker to cover your ass, and then the linebacker jumps also front side. So now you got 2 guys in the same gap, and Arian's like, okay, I'll take it. I'm sneaking backside. Like, he was so good at making linebackers jump out of their gaps. And I honestly felt bad for defensive lines that did their job against him because he was so good at making linebackers look terrible.
Wow. So I'll take that as a no.
Well, and I wonder if the idea of trading a, top 3 wide receiver for a good running back is sort of indicative of Bill O'Brien's coaching philosophy, as far as like his reliance on what could be seen as kind of old play calling styles, which I think is interesting because, we've talked on this podcast a lot about how the Pats have been running a spread offensive system, for like 15 years, especially with Josh McDaniels at the helm. Yeah, they've been using a lot of spread concepts. But Bill O'Brien, if I look at a lot of the dominant teams in the NFL right now, you don't see a lot of like number 1 backs, you don't see a lot of those like Saquon is obviously the exception, right? But and then of course, Nick Chubb would have been higher if he hadn't got injured. But I wonder if that return is going to look even worse in the next couple of years because of what seems to be the ability of NFL teams to sort of like reach into their Twitter followers and pull out, starting running backs by like, the handful.
I thought we had answered this question years ago when Zeke and Alfred Morris were coming out at the same, or no, it was Jordan Howard. Where Zeke, you spend the 4th overall pick on him, you're paying him top 3 running back money before he ever takes a snap. Leads the league in rushing. Sure, he's a great player, but number 2 in rushing that year was Jordan Howard making peanuts for a 5th round pick. And I thought we had already established this years ago that it's a lot better to get a back like Devonta Freeman in the 4th round, use up all of his good years, and then not pay him and do it again. Like, I thought that was the formula that the league had agreed on, but some teams, just for whatever reason, keep paying freaking running backs, and I don't get it. Like, why are you paying Derrick Henry $12 million a year when A.J. Dillon is the same size, the same speed, the same explosiveness, and he's making $350K for the Packers? Like, what's the goal here? I don't understand.
I thought we had learned our lesson with Trent Richardson, but
yeah,
that's just me. So I'm a bit of a Bill O'Brien truther. It's interesting to hear you say that you think that he's a good football coach, whereas I think from afar, I'm not on board with that, especially not with the quarterback he has. based on, the few games a year that I catch of the Texans, just because, it's hard to watch out of market stuff unless it's national in the NFL, because I'm not paying that much money for Sunday ticket. It's just not happening. So based on that, and also sort of the conversation in the national media, it seems like Bill O'Brien is an awful coach for Deshaun Watson. He's not using him to his strengths. Do you think that that's on purpose? Like, is Bill trying to teach Deshaun how to play that, prototypical, stereotypical pocket passing quarterback, like improve those skills that Deshaun has? Do you think he's doing that to, teach him and help him develop, or do you think that he's hampering Deshaun by sort of toning down his more explosive playmaking instincts?
I think he's doing it to save him, because Deshaun he plays hero ball a lot. It works out a lot, but it gets him lit up frequently.
Especially that first year.
Especially that first. I mean, he had to take a bus to Jacksonville because he medically was not cleared to fly. Could play in a football game, but couldn't fly.
What?
Yeah, I swear. Yeah, that was the thing. Like it was after the Dallas game when Jalen Smith just detonated him in the rib cage when he was diving for the pylon, again playing that hero ball, and he had the crack. Or no, it was the second year. That's what it was, because the first year he tore his ACL against Seattle, but the second year Jalen Smith cracked his ribs at the goal line, and then the next week, or might have been the week after that, he had to take a bus from Houston to Jacksonville for the game because he wasn't allowed to fly. The pressurization of the cabin would have been bad for his lungs. Yeah, so he's a warrior. He gets hit a lot because he holds the ball a lot. And I think Bill O'Brien is trying to coach him into a more get the ball out, pocket style, in the vein of Tom Brady, because Tom Brady doesn't take hits like that and he preserves himself. And he doesn't want Deshaun to go the same route that Cam did, where, Cam was their goal line back. And you can pull it out once a game, but if you do it 5 times a game, that adds up. And next thing you know, Cam only lasts 7 years with your team. So I think he's really trying to preserve his career. And he's not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, but he's trying to limit how much contact he takes when he doesn't need to.
Yeah, we know a thing or two about hero ball quarterbacks here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
That Mike was a bit smaller.
Right.
Harder to hit, though.
That's true. Was the cheat code. God, I miss playing with that guy in Madden, man. I haven't been able to play Madden since, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run around with Mike Vick, and now I try to do it, but I always have what's his name from Jacksonville, Ryan, the UCF
Gardner Minshew,
Blake
Bortles.
Blake Bortles, yeah.
Oh god,
the Bortles,
Dick Jordals. So Brett, here's I'm gonna modify my question that I had based on your previous question here. In best case scenario, everything goes right for the Texans the next few years. How many rings does Deshaun retire with? And is there a coach in the NFL or NFL adjacent that you think could give Deshaun more than Bill O'Brien, if that makes sense?
With Bill O'Brien, maybe one. Maybe. I'm talking best case scenario. Maybe one. We're talking like an Aaron Rodgers carrying Mike McCarthy type situation here. Lincoln Riley, 3.
Ooh,
okay.
That'd be a sexy quarterback and coach.
Eric Bieniemy, also maybe 3. Depends on, because now you're taking Bieniemy away from Kansas City.
Oh yeah, that'd be a nice pool.
Big Bieniemy guy.
Yeah, Mike is our resident Bieniemy fan.
Yeah,
Bieniemy don't want to go anywhere.
You give him that many millions with no state income tax in Texas and a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, he'd consider it.
That's true.
Yeah, and Texas doesn't have the same Rona issue that Florida does. So I was about to be like, yeah, but he could also go coach for Miami or Jacksonville. But Nobody wants to live in the swamp.
Except for Tom Brady.
I have a general policy that I stay as far away from the panhandle as I can at all times. So
Yeah. You mean
Why?
South Georgia, South Mississippi? Ryan, you're up.
To circle it back, because you kind of touched on the hero ball and the longevity thing. A few weeks back, we had a friend of ours who's a pretty knowledgeable Panthers fan on, and we were asking him, for an insight on the Panthers, but we really wanted to hear what he thought about Cam going to the Patriots. And as someone who'd watched Cam since day one and watched him grow and watched him progress through that system, he liked the move, but he thought the biggest problem that Cam's going to have is losing that affinity to the deep ball. Now, I already know your opinion on this, but I want you to explain and share your opinion on why you think Cam to the Patriots is a match made in heaven.
So it's funny, when I did a breakdown of the Panthers offense on the channel a couple of years ago, I did a heavy emphasis on Cam's ability at the line of scrimmage and how he is given almost no credit in the national media for how freaking brilliant he is. When he's able to spread people out, identify matchups, look at your coverage shells, like he just picks people apart. And his style mentally is very similar to Tom Brady. Like, they process defenses the same way. And he's just so damn smart. And he's not the most accurate deep ball passer. He's only had 2 years where he's even above average in deep ball accuracy. The rest, he was fairly low. Those 2 years were 2012, which was his second year in the league, in 2015, which is when he just was amazing and went to the Super Bowl with, throwing the trash cans out there. But every other year, he's been a highly inconsistent deep ball passer, but he has been consistently great in the quick game, in the intermediate game. So I think emphasizing his ability to decipher defenses in up-tempo spread looks, as well as utilize the quick passing game and all that kind of stuff, like that sounds like Tom Brady that can also run, which to me is a very dangerous thing. So I think Josh McDaniels is going to do an excellent job of just honestly continuing what the Patriots already do with the up-tempo and the spread and the quick game and all that kind of stuff, but then also kind of sprinkling in the element every now and then of Cam in the run game, and how even just the threat of him keeping the ball gives you extra numbers in the run game and makes things easier for Sony Michel, makes things easier for Burkhead, for White, all those guys, especially down in the red zone. So if anything, I think and this is going to sound sacrilegious, inserting Cam Newton as it stands now, if he's healthy, into that Patriots offense, they will be better than they were with Tom Brady, because he does a lot of the same things Brady does, but also adds to the run game.
I love it.
You add a 265-pound quarterback who runs like a 4.6, 4.7 into this.
Yeah, it's over.
RPOs with the add of run.
Isn't that assuming that Cam manages to hit the short and medium pass, like improves his accuracy?
He was already pretty accurate in the quick game. Like his accuracy was like top 8, I think, inside of 15 yards. So
what season? Because I know he hasn't had a full season on the books in the second. Was that last year?
It was a couple years ago, before the Watt hit. So it was like the first 9 games of the year. His efficiency numbers were elite. His accuracy numbers were top 10. The Panthers' time of possession was elite. Their red zone efficiency was elite. All of their offensive stats were very Patriots-esque, because Norv Turner emphasized the quick game. Like he was like 35th or something around there in terms of deep ball passing attempts. Like, they never threw it deep, even before he tore up his shoulder. And it made him a better quarterback when they did that. And I feel like Josh McDaniels is going to do the same thing.
So, Bray, you just dispelled a common myth that I think a lot of people perpetuate. I myself, that Cam is sort of bad at that intermediate to short pass, because I feel like whenever I watch him, he's airing those things like he's like overshooting his targets by a lot.
It was part of the reason why, he had a lot of success against the Falcons defenses a few times when you guys were just sitting in cover 3, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to do literally what the Patriots did and throw it to my running backs a million times and get free yards. And he he had some success against Atlanta just checking it down. And I like that he had the control to do that.
Ryan, I just found this software online. It's called Overdub, where it'll take samples of people's voice and you can like type out what they're going to say. And it'll like replay it back with their voice. So I'm going to cut what Brett just said, disagreeing with what I think about Cam in the short pass. We're going to dub it over in post. Okay. I just want to make sure. Mike, I know you wanted to talk to Brett a little bit about Jamal Adams.
Yeah, I was about to ask, and because other big trade news, I know how big you are on Jamal Adams and how highly you think of him. So, what do you think about that trade? Did the Jets? Well, I think the Jets got a very good value, but was it worth it for the Seahawks?
I think it's a pretty even trade, but I like it specifically for the Seahawks because they're really bad at drafting the first round anyway. I do not trust them to draft in the first round. I think this is almost like protecting them from themselves. And it's just they know they're getting an elite player, one that would never be there in the late 20s anyway, which is where their picks are always ending up. So they're getting an elite player. It's taking away the option of them having another one of those Rashad Penny or LJ Collier picks that are just they're bad at the time and even worse in 3 years. So I like they have such just a horrible track record with first round picks. I know some people say like a first round pick is a first round pick. It always carries that intrinsic value. I agree with that sort of. But I also have to take the franchise into consideration. And Seattle is, other than New England, the worst team in the first round. So I personally would side with Seattle in that trade just because it saves them from themselves. And I think they got a hell of a player in Jamal Adams.
I think it's funny that the best first round pick that the Seahawks have had in the Pete Carroll era, at least as far as my remembrance, was Bruce Irvin. And that was the one that I was like the biggest hater on since then. I was like, when it happened, I called my buddy who was a Seahawks fan and just started laughing into the phone at him like maniacally. I was like, "What are you doing?" And then turned out that I was wrong. So I think that's interesting. But
it's everything after the first round. They're pretty good. KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner. Richard Sherman was a fifth rounder. They just got DK Metcalf in the second. They took all their picks this year after round 4. Colby Parkins is the tight end that I had loved, and they got him in the 4th round. I think they gave up a late round pick for Diggs, who was an excellent player for them. They gave up not a whole lot for Michael Bennett. Like they've gotten a lot of really good values after the first round. So I think they should just stick to that and just use their first round picks to acquire known commodities.
Definitely. So we had to eventually get to this outside of disparaging our team and talking about past failures. We really do want to, get your opinions on the current state of the Falcons. Sort of go into what has been our problem the last 2 years. Like, do you think it's a personnel thing?
One second,
okay.
fellas. I'm sorry. My front door bell is ringing. I think it's my wife.
Okay.
Do you want to just run that question back? I'll edit this out.
Yeah, okay.
So far, excellent guest.
Yeah.
A1. Sway.
Sway. This is a sway guest.
Sway sauce. Is that the mango habanero?
No, this is just the regular one. I brought this one because the mango's like down to here by now, so it didn't look good on camera.
I'm almost done with both my peach and my mango.
Yeah,
they're so good, man. They're so good.
Like I was legit eating a Chick-fil-A breakfast burrito this morning. I had one sauce in each hand. Just
wait, how are you holding the burrito?
Yeah. Sorry about that, fellas.
You're good. We're just learning about Micah's ability to hold a burrito.
He had the burrito like tucked into it like his collar.
Hey, I have very big hands. I can do that all in one.
No.
Sorry, bro. We were just talking about this hot sauce right here in front of me. Sway sauce, by the way. If you want some,
I was going to ask you about that. It was very clever product placement, putting it right in front of the camera.
Ryan, do you think we can get Brett a shipment? I know Carl's still got some of the mango and peach.
Brett, if you want to shoot me your address or something, or a P.O. box or whatever.
Mango
hot
peach
sauce?
hot sauce? What?
This
Mango
one's just
habanero,
regular.
and then there's a couple of them.
habanero.
Yeah, this is the
Sounds
regular
amazing.
one right here.
Hell yeah, I'll shoot you my address.
So this is actually through Violet, one of Lionel's really good friends. He started making it a while ago, and he's just really blown up here lately, and they are delicious. I've always been a Tapatio fan, and I was like, oh, well, Tapatio's been retired out of my house.
Cool. So we'll work that out in the DMs. But as I was saying before, so we sort of want to get your opinion on the current state of the Falcons. Sort of your opinion on like what's been going wrong the past 2 years. Like, I know it's not personnel, but maybe do you think it's personnel? Do you think it's coaching? What's your opinion on all this tragedy going on in Atlanta?
So it's a mix. It kind of depends. I think injuries play a key. I mean, especially in the offensive line. Injuries in the offensive line have just killed you guys. I think they've drafted a lot of really good players, but they've had some first-round picks in particular that have not lived up to the billing. You know, Vic,
you can call him by his name, Vic.
Even Tax, who would agree. You know, they're incredibly lucky that they got Grady when they did.
Yeah,
because he's been kind of the only saving grace. But I mean, they've had some picks that I really, really like. Even this year, like Matt Hennessy was an excellent pick.
Yeah.
Marlon Davidson, love that pick. AJ Terrell, I know people clowned on them for that, but no, that was an amazing pick. I had him going at 17th in the first round, and people thought I was nuts. And I was like, trust me, teams like him more than you think. You know, I mean, I was even talking to the Falcons before the draft, and like my first mock draft, like kind of a test mock draft that I put out before my mock draft special. I had CJ Henderson going to Atlanta, and I got a text from my buddy with the Falcons who said, you might want to reconsider that one. That's not going to happen.
Because he was highly tied to us, and everybody's mock draft around.
They didn't want him.
Really?
As an inside man.
They love Terrell's physicality. He's a dog.
I've always been on the Terrell bandwagon.
Not
here.
that they hated Henderson. They loved AJ.
Terrell's just a lot tougher in the run game than Henderson.
They love him. They love Hennessy. They love who's that linebacker they took from was it Fresno?
Michael Walker.
No, yeah. No, is it Fresno? I think it was Fresno.
Mm-hmm, Fresno.
Michael Walker. They adore him. So you know they had a really solid class this year that fixed I think some key holes, especially at corner. I think corner was the main one. I know they still believe in Isaiah. They just want him to start turning his head. That's the only thing they want him to do. Is just you're in phase, buddy. Just turn your head. They love all of their safeties. They just want Keanu to stay healthy.
You essentially just covered our next three questions.
Right, but still, before we go on, we got to touch on the coaching though, because you were running through our personnel list, and I'm like, impressive. But so what is it?
Well, there were some coaching player relationships that weren't the best. Dez is probably the most notable one. I feel like Alford wasn't clicking with the coaches as well as maybe they hoped, which is why he's no longer there. I think some guys just were not buying into the system. And also I feel like Dan was maybe a little bit overloaded, which is why play calling duty shifted away from him. And then all of a sudden things got better. I think guys responded to the switch positively, and I'm happy that Dan made that switch because I think it was necessary. And Dan became a better coach, and their defense became a more fluid unit, way better communication. Guys clearly had bought in. They started playing better towards the last half of the year because really it was communication issues and effort that was like the main issue. It wasn't talent. And I think when Dan made that switch, that was huge. And so I think getting guys out of the building that not that they're bad players, they just didn't click with the coaches. And then also making those switches on the coaching staff was huge, especially defensively. On the offense, honestly, the main problem was the offensive line not being able to stay healthy. Caleb had a rough rookie year, but I can't really blame him that much because he was playing hurt. Lindstrom, same thing. I like Lindstrom a lot, but it's kind of seemed like the only guys that were staying healthy were Mack and Matthews.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just if 60% of your offensive line's hurt, that's just it's not going to work. So all the talent is there, and I think all the guys that are in the building now are the ones that work well with the coaches. So I expect this team to be a lot better. They just have to stay healthy.
Yep.
I'm gonna double you up here because you've already talked about them, and I really want to touch on our corners because, like you said, that's been a big problem with us. But I know you were huge on Oliver before the draft, coming out of Colorado. I know you really liked him a lot, and you really liked it. I mean, the guy's arms are so long; it's ridiculous to see him out there. But you mentioned turning his head. Was that he was a second-year player and he really needed some coaching in this? Or is he like fundamentally flawed in what he does?
I think it's a panic issue. I really think it is. I think he feels like he's not as in phase as he really is. And I think he gets a little panicky. Like if he turns his head, these guys are going to separate from him because he runs 4.5 and they run 4.4. And at some point it's like, you got to just trust yourself. Just turn your head and reach. That's all you got to do. And I feel like he just doesn't quite trust himself yet. And he almost feels like he needs to be locked on their hip. And it's like, you don't need to be locked on their hip. You got 34-inch arms.
Right. I can reach so far.
If you don't turn your head, it doesn't matter how close you are. They're still going to catch the ball. So, and even then, if you don't turn your head and you do reach, they're going to flag you for PI. So that's the main thing is you got to learn to trust yourself and just turn your head.
Yeah, I hear you. And I definitely see it. Now with Terrell, I really want to get some insight on him from you because I really want to know what you view his ceiling and his floor are. I kind of see him because of that toughness and because of his ability to, really lock up in man and be pretty good in zone. And as you can see behind me, I'm a big Seminoles fan. He reminds me of a smaller bodied Jalen with his instincts, not quite as high. But that's just me. What do you view as his floor and his ceiling?
Ooh, man, floor is tough because he's really, really aggressive, but sometimes that aggressiveness can kind of bite him in the ass. So it's tough to say what his floor is because it depends on if he reins in his aggressiveness or not, because that's really his main problem. Ceiling is Jalen. Just an aggressive press, man corner. Like they can play zone, but honestly, he's just better in press. Like I'd rather just leave him on the outside, go beat up receivers. You watch him against Jamar Chase. Like people say that he got his ass kicked against Jamar Chase, where it's like, nah, not really. Like those were just really, really perfectly thrown passes by the first overall pick at quarterback, throwing to the closest
best wide receiver.
The best wide receiver. That is the closest thing we've seen to Julio since Julio. So it wasn't really on him. And he still got like 4 pass breakups in that game. Like he was giving Chase all he could handle. I mean, he was literally throwing him off the field on some route. Like he was pressing him off the field, which nobody does that to Jamar Chase, but Terrell did. So you want to say, okay, yeah, he gave up a touchdown when Terrell was playing a back shoulder ball when he was stacked and he didn't expect Burrow to throw it over the top anyway and have Chase run and go get it. Like no corner expects that to happen. That's just shit that happens when you're playing against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So I don't really hold it against him. It happens when you're playing against 2 top 5 pick talents. Even Sherman got dunked on by Odell and we don't hold that against Sherman. So I'm fine with it.
Do that. Do you think Burrow will translate?
Oh yeah. Burrow's the best college quarterback I've seen since Luck. He's going to be just fine. Now, his rookie season is going to be a little bit weird because he didn't really get a true offseason. So I'm curious to see if they even play him at first because he's kind of behind where a lot of other rookies would be right now. But if anybody could still make it work, it's him.
But Dalton's gone now, so who would they start?
It's God, who's that kid?
The guy from Alabama?
No, the other one that they took in like the 4th round. Let me look. It's Ryan Finley.
Oh,
Finley. Sorry, I said Lindley, but
or if you want to throw Kaepernick to the Wolves for a little bit.
Not a bad idea.
I doubt the Bengals will do that one though.
Knowing their owner, you're probably right, but I mean, I honestly Cap has actually played professional football before. Joe Burrow has not. Like if we're bringing these guys into the building for the first time at the same time, I kind of feel like an NFL veteran might do a little bit better with a new system than a rookie, but that's just me.
Who started for the Bengals last year? Because it wasn't Dalton.
It was
Dalton and Finley.
Finley, right?
No, it was who's the kid who played at Florida
Oh.
for a long time? Driscoll.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff Driscoll, yeah.
Yeah.
Some forgettable football.
So, speaking of young players, which player in the NFL do you see making the biggest jump in production this year?
Oh man, that's. Oof.
If it's not Ridley, we're gonna have to kick you.
How do I make Drew Lock rhyme with Calvin Ridley? Yeah, that's my answer is Drew Lock. I think, he only got to play 5 games, so it's maybe a little bit cheating that we're going to be comparing a full year 2 of production compared to year 1. But even just efficiency-wise, I expect him to be a lot more efficient. I liked him better than Daniel Jones, and I think as a rookie, he played better than Daniel Jones. Honestly, he might have even played better than Dwayne Haskins. And other than Kyler and Gardner Minshew, those were really the only 2 rookie quarterbacks that probably played better than him. So it's kind of a low bar as it relates to Minshew. Like Kyler's amazing, but
you're on that Drew Lock train. What is it about Drew Lock that is so exceptional besides the fact that he can spin it?
I really like. So here's where he got caught up. His decision making against man coverage was excellent. Decision making against zone, not so much. I think that's really the area that he mainly needs to improve on. But to be fair, a lot of rookies do because they think they see what zone coverage is in college, and then they go to the pros and they're like, "What the hell is this match quarter shit? What's all this?" It's like, what do you mean they can follow you in zone cover? Like, nope, what? So right. I think it takes a while for them to get used to that. And Lord knows Kansas City's defense is complex for any quarterback, let alone a rookie. So he still might not even have that mastered by the end of year 2. Like it's rare to see a quarterback, be able to just step on a field and pick apart match zone coverages like that. Like Pat did it, Deshaun did it. Russell Wilson even did it, but even Lamar Jackson, who's the MVP, couldn't do that as a rookie. It took him until year 2 to kind of really have that click. So I think if anybody was going to have a Lamar-ish jump, it would be Drew Lock.
Well, I mean, speaking of the zones, though, I mean, Pat admitted on the shop that he didn't really start learning how to read defenses until last year. He won an MVP before he learned how to read defenses.
I think he was reading it, but he didn't know he was reading it because he was more reading. He was like it's almost like basketball. Like he was reading space and leverage. He wasn't like in his head. He wasn't like, this is cover 2. I should throw to the deep post. Like it was more, I see a void in the middle because the safeties are expanding. I'm going to throw to that void. And so he was reading it in a totally different way. Like he was reading it. He just wasn't processing that he was reading it because again, like I saw him with my own eyes in his 4th ever game, picking apart cover 2 invert from Pittsburgh with like perfect dimes to Travis Kelce. And it's like, what?
Right.
who does that? But it just in his head, he was able to see rotations, maybe not even knowing what they were, but he was still able to see vacant space and exploit that, which is just incredible.
GOAT status.
Yeah, seriously.
He's going to be really good. So, Brad, I have a question for you. You talked a little bit about Drew Lock, who's one of those guys that we consistently are like, why does everybody like him? I think the only other guy that we've got that we're confused, and maybe you can sort of shed some light on this. Why does everyone like Sam Darnold so much?
Pre-draft grades. But pre-draft grades can fall apart pretty quick in the NFL.
Simplistic. I like it.
No future for
I think
I was really hoping for like he was like, well, like I wanted to be convinced that I was wrong, but
like right now I have about the same level of confidence in Darnold that I do in Jones, which is like cautious optimism because I like to believe that some player isn't destined to fail, but at the same time, if I had to bet my paycheck on it, I definitely would not.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Darnold. So in an opposite sort of situation, we here in Atlanta, we're hated on for good reason in the sports department a lot of the times. But I think one of the areas where at least most of this podcast thinks that we don't deserve it is the quarterback of our National Football League team. We think Matt Ryan is just tops, but he doesn't get a lot of respect and he gets a lot of hate. So my first question for you about that, I've got two. The first one is, where's Matt on your list? Where does he rank in terms of active quarterbacks right now? Where does he fit? Because we've got him at like 4 or 5, but you see him a lot of times
legacy
down in, like, the
wise.
10s. No, like just right now, playing right now in the NFL. Active quarterbacks.
Well, off the top of my head, if I was going to choose a quarterback for just for my football team, just generic football team, if I was going to choose a quarterback, I go Pat first, Russell second. You could put Deshaun and Wentz in either order. It doesn't really matter to me. Rodgers. And then we start getting into the Matt Ryan conversation. Because then we're saying, okay, do you think Breeze has another good year left? Do you think Tom has another good year left? Do you start looking at Kyler? Do you start looking at, maybe one last ride for Ben? Do you want Lamar there at 6 instead of Matt Ryan? Like, there's like a group of 5 guys that I would all consider at 6. But my top 5, like I would almost say like 6 through 10 is all tied. Yeah, I would even maybe throw Cousins in there. But number 1 through 5 to me is pretty firmly Pat, Russell, Deshaun, Wentz, and Rodgers.
That's really interesting that you included Wentz, even though I don't think we've had a full representative season from him yet. And you also didn't mention Ryan Tannehill.
How could I forget? How could I forget? Fun fact, Houston's actually won the division 4 out of the last 6 seasons, but they're the only team in the division to not go to a championship game. How depressing is that? Ryan frickin' Tannehill went to an AFC championship before Deshaun Watson did.
Well, I think he can thank Derrick Henry for that.
Yeah.
That's why Derrick
Tannehill stepped up in the playoffs, man.
We're not doing this again.
We had a full 45-minute argument about this.
So one of the criticisms that we see about Matt Ryan is that he doesn't pass the eye test, right? Like he's what, like top 10, top 15 as far as like stats go for the last like 10 years or something like that. Like he's got almost Peyton Manning numbers as far as his accuracy. His touchdown to interception ratio last year was unbelievable.
Not last year before.
Year before. So when you are looking at a quarterback and when you're doing an assessment of the quarterback, how much does that eye test sort of factor in to your grading and evaluation of them, and how much of it is just legit stats and math?
I would say it's like mostly film and then like 25% stats, I would say. Because I think film always gives a lot more context than stats do. And so I would always kind of prioritize film over stats. But stats, I think, is the easiest way to, at a glance, kind of get information and compare players. And then you kind of go into the film and say, like, okay, well, why is the comparison that way? Like, why is Matt Ryan so much higher than quarterback X at this stat? And then you can kind of get better answers that way. Like, for me, like, I personally think Matt Ryan's already a Hall of Famer. I think he's going to end up with probably like top 5 to 6 overall stats by the time he hangs up his cleats. He'll have an MVP award. He will have gone to a Super Bowl, even if he never wins one, which I have no idea if he's ever going to win one, but at least he went to one. I think the only thing that might hold him back with voters is that people might credit Kyle Shanahan more to his success than Matt Ryan himself, which is an entirely different philosophical argument, but I've definitely heard people say that.
Right. Which I think is interesting because Ryan got to that NFC Championship game against the Niners.
I'm
Dirk Cutter.
Right there with you. but people are going to say, well, he only won MVP because he had Kyle Shanahan.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's an accurate argument, but I am saying it's going to be an argument that's used against him. So I don't know if he'll get in first ballot, like maybe by the end of his career, his numbers would suggest he should. But at the same time, if I was a voter for the Hall of Fame, I would say if Eli's getting in, Matt Ryan's getting in.
Right. Yeah, he's an MVP.
Sure.
I mean, geez.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ryan's like the eyeball test, right? Like, I think the thing that affects Ryan is the same thing. And I'm glad that you brought up Eli. It's the same thing that bothered me about watching Eli play is that they both look kind of like terrified the whole time they're on the field. You know, there's that sort of like wide-eyed, like, oh shit. Like even when they're like in control of the game, Matt still looks like he expects his offensive line to forget how to block and just get creamed.
Happy feet.
You know, and he gets happy feet.
But then
bit.
every once in a while he'll go into that dad voice and scream at Mo Sanu to get fucking set. And you're like, all right, there's my quarterback.
Yeah.
Correct. He said it was directed at Julio.
Yeah. And that was straight at Julio.
Well, so we've danced around this topic, but we know what the whole world wants to know. The hottest topic in the NFL right now, the TB, the Tampa Bay with TB, whatever squared, however you want to talk about this. But do you believe that Brady and Gronk can regain their chemistry and production from years ago and lead Tampa to the playoffs? Or do you see them as an average team that could potentially miss out?
Oh, man. In any other season, I would say they're probably a playoff lock. But with coronavirus in the mix, you never know who's going to get sick. And so I feel like nobody's a playoff lock right now, especially with a roster and a coaching staff that skews on the older side. It's tough for me to pencil them in the playoffs right now. I think, again, all things being equal, yeah, like that's a stacked roster. And it's probably going to be the best weapons that Tom has had in 13 years, if we're being honest. But I just can't be super confident, partly because they're a Florida team and Florida's getting crushed right now. I can't be super confident that they are going to stay healthy virus-wise enough to stay on the field and actually like win a lot of games. Hell, I can't even be confident the season's going to happen at this point. But all things being equal, on the just purely roster and coaching and quarterback and all that kind of stuff, they're a playoff team.
A great take that you said about their age and the fact of I never really considered that how that might factor into their overall health during this thing, and the fact they're in Florida. That's like a disaster waiting to happen.
I mean, Bruce Arians, not to get super morbid, but Bruce Arians is older in Florida with already a lot of health problems in his life.
Already issues.
Like it is not safe for him to be there right now. And if I was him, I would strongly consider not being there right now.
Coaching by Zoom.
Bruce Arians starring in Bubble Boy 2.
Do you think Tom's already gotten Bruce Arians hooked up with Alex Guerrero?
Yeah, Alex Guerrero's got the cure.
Right, because he's like, hey man, check this out. You don't get sunburn, and you don't get the Rona. Watch.
Yeah, or you can just grab some of Russell Wilson's concussion water and be just fine.
Oh God.
MJ's special stuff, man.
That's Space Jam.
Or maybe Ray Lewis has some leftover deer antler spray.
LaRon Landry used all of that.
He went straight to the source. He ate the deer. That's how LaRon got so big. All right, Micah, you're up.
Wait, there's one more. There's a second part to the question though.
Oh, sorry.
So discussing talking about Brady and sort of how the powers have shifted, and of course now it's sort of Mahomes. Do you think that there's another franchise that could potentially have the kind of dominance that the Pats have? Maybe not even the next decade, but ever.
It would require players to take pay cuts consistently, which the Patriots were a very unique situation. And I mean, honestly, even though Pat got $45 a year, he still left money on the table. Like that was a preemptive pay cut, in my opinion. So if he does not renegotiate that contract, within 4 years, he will be grossly underpaid.
Right.
In which case that creates a scenario where it's possible. Maybe. But that contract needs to not be renegotiated at all. And other players also need to buy in and take pay cuts. You know, when it comes time to look at Tyron, pay cut. When it comes time to look at Chris Jones in 3 years, when they're trying to find money and need a restructure, pay cut. Frank Clark, pay cut. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you know, we're getting 5 years out of you, then a franchise tag. You better not ask for top 5 money. You know, like you want to be a Chief and win 5 rings, you're not getting paid. You're running back. And it's a lot to ask dudes to willingly turn down millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Only one team ever has been able to do that, and that's the New England Patriots.
Speaking on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Micah and I pre-draft were like, okay, you know, maybe we can pick him up late. And then the Chiefs did it, and we looked at each other. We're like, why? And then I saw your video afterwards, your reaction. I was like, oh, okay, so we're not alone in this and in our misery.
Yeah, that dude's ridiculous. He single-handedly tore Alabama a new asshole.
But then he lands in the perfect spot for him.
Oh, it's going to be gross. Like even Andy Reid, you know, Brett Veach sent, you know, Clyde Edwards-Helaire tape to Andy Reid, and Veach said, you know, this guy reminds me of Brian Westbrook, and then Andy just sent back, he's better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
So take this in a different direction. So talking about quarterbacks, so is Trubisky to blame for the Bears' mediocrity, or is Matt Nagy a much bigger part of the problem that nobody really gives credit for?
Both, because Trubisky's bad, but Matt Nagy was not holding him accountable enough for being bad.
Yes.
He should have benched him way earlier. At that point, it became clear that he had not earned his starting job anymore. They waited way too long to even hint at going in a different direction. I know they were saying we didn't want to shatter his confidence. The rest of the team's confidence was already shattered because they knew they weren't going to win games with that dude. And it's unfair to ask 51 other guys to be accountable for their performance and not ask your quarterback to be accountable.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not fair.
Well, my biggest issue with them was that first game, opening game against the Packers, where they throw the ball like 45 times and run it like 12. It's like,
yeah,
if you don't have a competent quarterback, you need to balance the offense some way.
And that was also part of my problem with Nagy is when you're halfway through a game and Tariq Cohen has more red zone carries than David Montgomery, you are doing it wrong.
Oh my God, that made me so. I had him on
Yeah, I had David Montgomery on fantasy, and yeah.
Oh, I did too. It screwed me bad.
Muted? Are we still?
I was muted.
Oh, okay.
Might be. All right, so Brett, I love wide receiver drama. I think wide receiver drama is fantastic, especially, you know, hating on Michael Thomas on this podcast. So we've got some drama. We've got a little bit of like a Twitter beef going on right now between Keenan Allen and Mike Evans. So I have a question for you. Who would you take in like a straight street fight?
Oh, Mike Evans.
Keenan Allen. Okay.
My God, Mike Evans.
There's like
I've
7-inch reach difference.
I've heard stories about Mike when he was at Texas A&M. That dude is a actual no bullshit crazy person when he's angry. Like, it is not a good idea to fight him because he will rip your face off. Like it's right. He is a football player for a reason because he gets to inflict violence on people. Like, you've ever seen him block? Like, that dude loves to actually hurt defensive backs. You do not want to fight Mike Evans.
So Ryan, don't tag Mike Evans in this podcast really quick. So Brett, do you think Keenan Allen is the most underrated wide receiver in the league? Or if not Keenan Allen, who's the most underrated wide receiver in the league?
Most underrated wide receiver. I mean, I think Keenan's like pretty well established as like a top 12 guy. Like, I don't feel like it's crazy to say that. Some would even argue top 10, but like firmly top 12. In terms of underrated, man, that's a good question. I mean, I think yeah, he's up there. I think Will Fuller's up there in terms of
Mhm.
underrated. Cortland Sutton's underrated. Emmanuel Sanders has always been underrated.
Emmanuel Sanders is so steady too. Like that
Yeah.
dude just produces.
Tyler Lockett, underrated.
That's a good one.
Chris Godwin broke out, so I don't really consider him underrated anymore. Let's see. I'm kind of DJ Moore over in Carolina is pretty damn
He scares
good.
me this year.
Teddy.
Packers really only have one guy. Kenny Galladay's pretty damn good. Allen Robinson's super underrated. Way
yeah.
underrated. Gallup, I think, is coming into his own, but I think kind of people, the cat's out on that one. And
So,
then,
Brett, who's the most overrated wide receiver?
Ooh.
Oh, I know who he's not going to say because he had an episode on him.
Who?
He's not going to say can't guard Mike.
No, Mike's not overrated. Mike's great. And I that's also a dude I don't want to fight, and I really don't want to tag. So, Mike, you're the best ever. You're Jerry Rice, bro.
Yeah, all 50 people who listen to this podcast, make sure you tell Mike Thomas that.
Tag him.
No, who's your like most? Because I think Antonio Brown might have been on the list at some point as far as like people who think that they're the best, and also everyone else sort of talks about in those terms, and then
AD was like probably had the
flames
best
out.
hands in the league. Though.
I kind of feel like Jarvis Landry's a little overrated.
Hmm.
God, I'm trying to think of. I think Devontae Parker's okay. Like he's good, but people are already putting him like top 10 because he roasted Stephon Gilmore in one game, and it's like, all right, let's calm down on that one. Like,
I haven't seen that chat.
oh my God, well, you've clearly never been on a Dolphins podcast before. Yeah,
is it too late to change to a Dolphins podcast, guys?
He's a top 10 wide receiver according to the state of Florida because
Wow.
Stephon Gilmore had a bad game.
They've all got
he's-
Rona brain.
Yeah, he's good, but like let's calm down.
We know the answer is Michael Thomas. You don't have to. Wait, all right.
I want to put Brett
you
on this.
Falcons fans, man. It's like you've never heard of a slant route before.
No, we have. We've seen him over and over and over and over and over again.
And the bubble screen.
Occasionally he runs a deep cross, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
I basically said Michael Thomas is Mo Sanu on steroids.
Deer antler spray. That's steroids, Micah. Brett, I'm going to put you on the spot one more time, just because I like making people who like rely on access to do their jobs answer hard questions. But honesty here, because I'm actually really interested to hear what you have to say. Who do you think is the worst starting quarterback in the NFL right now, and why?
Oh man. There's so many to choose from.
Starters or just bad?
Starters. Man, I guess I can't really count Mitch as a starter anymore. So I'm gonna go with Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
Ooh,
He was god-awful last year.
Man Rivers.
His arm is gone. The mind is there. The arm is gone. He can't throw anymore.
Do you think there's hope for him to sort of pick up in an offense like what they had Peyton in when Peyton was in Denver, when they had the same sort of issue, where, because when they won the Super Bowl, Manning couldn't throw more than like 10 or 12 yards with any sort of accuracy.
That's the exact scenario we're looking at. It's the same thing. Old man, dead arm, not mobile, can't get away from pressure. It's not there. And Manning was carried to that Super Bowl because their roster was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary Kubiak's a pretty good coach. Can't really say the same thing about the Colts roster right now. Like, they're not bad, but they're not the kind of roster that's going to elevate a quarterback that can't throw anymore.
A bunch of young, undersized, fast receivers.
And they don't have that Wade Phillips defense, who carried both Peyton Manning and Jared Goff to the Super Bowl.
I mean, Phil was struggling with Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Mike Williams, and Melvin Gordon, and Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
So
bad.
They took that kid out of Oregon, right? Herbert?
yeah, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that. All right, well, I think that's it for our like our interview segment, Brett, as far as like our questions. If you want, we're gonna head to a break just because I need to check on my kid and I gotta pee. Oh, I forgot. We're gonna do the schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we do every time we have a guest, we like to, get a little overhead view of what y'all think the Falcons are going to do this season and just get a quick win-loss record from you. So we're going to run through these names. So first, so when the logo's on the bottom, that means
I got you. Right? I got the schedule for you right here. So I'm going to name the game, and you just give me win or loss, and then we'll keep track of you. So Week 1 versus Seattle.
Loss.
Week 2 at Dallas.
Win.
Week 3 versus Chicago.
Win? Yeah, let's go win.
At Green Bay.
Oh, man. That one's tough. That one's so tough. I'm going to go win.
Versus Carolina.
It's in Atlanta?
Yes.
Win.
At Minnesota.
Loss.
Detroit comes to town.
Oh, man. I'm going to go loss.
At Carolina.
Loss.
Denver comes to town.
A win, and the over-under is going to be like 80 points.
Wow. All right. And then the second half of the season, which is just completely brutal for us. So we go at New Orleans.
Loss.
Las Vegas comes to town.
Win.
New Orleans comes to town.
Win.
At the Chargers.
Win. Blowout.
All right, now this is where it gets real brutal. Tampa Bay comes to town.
Loss.
At Kansas City.
Loss.
By how much?
4.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. You think it's going to be a close game. And then at Tampa Bay.
Do they split? Can they split? Oh, man. Win.
So you have us at 9-7.
Honestly, that's not – I thought I was going to get you to 10.
That's a 7 seed.
It was that Detroit and Carolina game.
I knew you guys were going to – you're always going to drop one weird one at home.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's it going to be? So I think it's going to be at Detroit or Carolina, maybe both.
It's usually to an AFC team.
Yeah, we do not do well against AFC.
Where does that put Brett?
Who's the AFC teams you play at home? So it's Denver
Raiders.
and Denver.
No, it's Raiders.
Denver and Las
right?
Vegas. Yeah.
Maybe I'd swap out Detroit and have Vegas beat you because you're going to drop a weird one at home. You always do.
And, I mean, Las Vegas, I mean, he's building that team to
It's a
do
good
what
team.
we don't cover well. Yeah, a lot of people think they're not going to be good, and I really like their roster.
When I heard Lions, I like the Lions offensive line, and they got 2 bangers for running backs. I was like, that doesn't sound great for Dion.
Yeah, I think I had that Lions one as a weird loss too when we did this.
John Matthew Stafford, my favorite fantasy quarterback, at least a couple of years ago. He's reliably 400 yards and 3 TDs. So,
Just egg.
yeah. Well, I mean, feast or famine, man. So where does that put Brett as far as I think he's right above me as far as the record, right? I had him at 8-8.
I think the majority of us have him between 7-9 and 10-6. I think is the best someone said so far.
I said 12.
So Brett's right in the middle.
You said 12-4.
Marco did say 12-4.
The eternal optimist.
Brett, how many games are they going to play before the season gets canceled by the Rona?
3.
Ooh, a pessimist. We've had everybody at 6, but those last 3 are really sketchy, probably.
It's going to be 3 because by that point we're going to start. It's going to be 2 weeks after week 1.
Yeah.
And then you're going to see a spike in positives. Heaven forbid somebody gets sick in August and is still in the hospital at that point. They're going to see a spike in positives. There's going to be some coach that's going to be hospitalized for a few weeks by that point. They're like, we don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, especially with everybody rubbing all over each other.
Yeah. So it's going to be 2 weeks. 2 weeks after the first games, when everybody is with each other for the first time. And I think it's going to take until the Saturday before week 4.
And then they're going to cancel it right at the last minute.
It's going to be just like the NBA.
So speaking of the NBA, NBA, the NWSL, and Major League Soccer have all bubbled, right? They're all the NWSL was sequestered in Salt Lake City, which was excellent because they're playing outside. So they had really good weather out there. They had basically no rain. They're at altitude. It wasn't too hot. And then, the NBA and Major League Soccer are both in Orlando because Papa Disney, he's got his hands in the pockets. If you were going to bubble the NFL, which would be really hard, right? Just because of like the size of the rosters and also the coaching staffs and such. But if you were going to bubble the NFL, where would you bubble them? What is your like dream bubble city for the NFL?
So there needs to be a lot of fields, like a lot of fields that can accommodate the NFL, all within driving distance, without having dense population, which is tough. I'm thinking West Texas, because in West Texas, even in the middle of goddamn nowhere, there's going to be football fields everywhere.
I had a feeling it was going that way.
Yeah, I was going to say either Texas or LA, Southern California.
Specifically West Texas. Get them out of the cities. Fill up the Best Western or whatever's around there.
El Paso.
Yeah, and do it that way. Because I don't think, like, if you're really going to go to a state where there's not a lot of cases, like Maine or Connecticut, I just don't think there's enough fields around there. Not to mention, you really don't want to run the risk of weather canceling, or at least making every single game really hard. In West Texas, you're not going to get snow. You're not going to get rain. And
that's why I'm saying LA, because you've got that Southern California perfect weather.
But I mean, there's too many cases here.
Yeah,
those
get lost in LA.
MLS is doing it in Orlando, and so is the NBA. And Florida is.
But the
Florida
hotel,
is Armageddon.
The hotel density there. I mean, maybe you could do it in Anaheim. Maybe
put them in Disneyland.
No, not even. It's just, you can play a game at Anaheim Stadium. Your driving distance to all the fields in LA. There's density of hotels in Anaheim, so you could literally just lock it down.
Yeah.
But that's still a maybe.
Yeah, it's just too many players to try to like really, especially if you're in LA, to expect no one.
And it's staff, it's training staff,
Yeah,
everybody. And even then, like they would have to book out the hotels right now, which the hotels are open. So it's and the thing is, like, Disneyland at best is opening by October. So if Disneyland can't even open until October, I can't imagine the state being like, yeah, let's have NFL games here.
Well, if they end up bubbling, then you'll have Brett as our insider on it. We'll help sneak you into the bubble, man. I'll give you like a mustache glasses disguise. You can break in. We're gonna kick to a break, Brett. If you want to hang out, you can. Otherwise, we appreciate it. But we will be back in a couple minutes.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yep. You good, Ryan? Three, two, one. Welcome back from the break. This is Fish and Grits, the podcast. Big ups to Brett Kollmann, man, for coming on the show. What a great audience. What a great guest, Brett. He's got just like that crazy football mind.
Oh man,
He took 2 hours of
questionable-
football questions in stride and answered each one in depth.
in depth.
Questionable opinions on quarterbacks, though, I do have to say.
Yeah, you gave us a flat line on Matt Ryan all the way.
Yeah, he was like, oh, Carson Wentz is definitely a top 5 for me. And I'm like, what? So Brett, now that you're not on the call, I'm gonna talk mad shit about your quarterback top 5. But anyway, so Brett Kollmann, you can catch him on. He's a good follow on Twitter. He's got a podcast. Was it Bootleg?
The Bootleg podcast, quarterback podcast, or the Bootleg football podcast.
Bootleg football podcast, and he's got a YouTube channel. We will link those podcasts and YouTube channels in the show notes. If you're interested, check him out. He's got an awesome brain. He's one of Micah's favorites. A little bit of news. So we're getting together with a friend of the show, Andy Bunker, Bunky Pants, if you will, Bunkmaster General. And we're going to be delivering some fish and grits to the 92.9 The Game studios here in Atlanta, courtesy of Chef Flu, Micah's boy. So they're going to be doing that on air, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the midday
right around
show
noon
on Friday. That is, since we're recording on Tuesday the 29th, we're recording on the 28th, Wednesday 29th, on the 31st of July. Check out the midday show. Listen to Bunker eat some. That fish and grits is, man, it's so good.
Delicious.
It's so good.
92.9 The Game.
Yeah, so check it out. I think you can stream it places. I don't know how radio works.
radio.com.
You can do it on your
Radio.com.
phone. You just tell them to stream WCGC Atlanta.
Need an app for that.
Yeah, sure. Micah doesn't.
He has a transistor.
Yeah, he's got a transistor radio. Well, if it worked good enough for my great granddad, does that count as my Southern accent for the week?
Yeah, that's 13 out of 13.
Oh, we're so good. Lucky number 13. So, gents, sports. The NBA, the association, is almost back, and I think that this is really exciting to me because for a couple of reasons. One, it looks like it's going to be a really fun tournament after the play-in. It looks like it's going to be good. People look pretty locked on, even though we had a long layoff. It looks pretty good. Number two, the NBA has been doing a lot of the things that we had talked about wanting them to do when they were coming back, as far as like social justice initiatives, right? Remember we were talking about how we want to see them pull a Marshawn, but just say arrest the cops, kill Breonna Taylor. They're actually doing it,
Exactly.
It's and also it is fucking weird. Have you watched any of these scrimmages?
Yeah,
It's weird, man. It looks like they're playing in a gym.
Looks like 2K.
it literally does. Okay, you're in the pro-am.
It looks like so much fun. Also, go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter at Mr. McNamerica. I promoted a tweet yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
You keep seeing like promoted tweets. So I promoted a tweet yesterday. It was $50 for like 6 hours of promotion or something like that. That's a blast.
That's a blast because that's a lot.
It's a bad deal. But I tweeted arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor, and then I named them and I promoted it because I was sick of seeing stuff like, hey, come check out this class for learning how to play guitar online or something. So I figured whatever. And
Did you get your stats?
Yeah, man. You want to hear the stats?
Yeah, let's hear 'em.
Yeah. Just
All right,
50
had to
for
pull-
6 hours is a lot. I usually do like 20 for 3 days.
Yeah, you were.
I would have had this pulled up. Okay. So we had 14,599 impressions.
Wow.
3,000 of those were organic and 11,600 were promoted. And I had 1,404 total engagements. 100 of those were organic and 1,306 were promoted. I had conversations in the comments going. I had people sending me replies. They're just like, this is the kind of paid content I want to see on this site, stuff like that.
How many likes did you get?
I don't know, man. Let me look.
I don't care about that stuff.
306 likes
Nice.
and 119 retweets, which is good for me because I have 7 followers. I don't like tweet, I don't use it. I am a content consumer for the most part. but I thought that was a good use of my time. So, and I was partly inspired by how the NBA, tying it back to sports, the NBA is still calling attention to social justice stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we got a little bit of news in the NBA. The first one is, y'all have seen these WNBA hoodies, right? The orange ones with the logo.
Yeah.
I ordered one. I love the WNBA. The Atlanta Dream just went through a rebrand recently. Kelly Loeffler is a part owner in them, but she could jump off a bridge. But one of the problems with the WNBA is that they don't. I sent her I commented on Instagram at her or something like that recently, where I was just like, "Why are you such a piece of trash?" I talk to my elected officials however I want because I pay their salary. So
Right.
So Kyrie Irving actually. Okay, let's back it up. So there are a lot of players who are going to sit out this current WNBA season due to health concerns, right? Which is something that we'd be, expecting. Every major league has had people sitting out due to health concerns. And a couple big name players from the WNBA are also sitting out. I want to make sure I get her. Medical opt-out reason. Elena Deladon is trying to opt out because she has Lyme's disease, and there are a bunch of other players, but Deladon's one of the big ones because she's high profile. She wants to sit out, but the WNBA said that they're not going to pay them and allow them to sit out for medical reasons during this season. But my man Kyrie stepped up and he decided he would donate $3.5 million. No, 1.5?
1, yeah.
1.5, sorry. Kyrie's not that cool. $1.5 million to help pay these players. It's sort of like what David Price did for the minor leaguers. You remember way early?
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of thoughts about that. The first one is Kyrie continues to surprise me, and he's trying to make me like him despite the fact that he's a flat earth guy. And basketball poison. But good on Kyrie, right? For, sticking up for the WNBA, showing that he appreciates them, not just, as far as everyone else wearing the hoodie, right? But he actually wants to help take care of them. But the other thing is that this article I read said that $1.5 million pays the salary of all of the players who are sitting out for the whole season. Just another example of how women's sports continue to lag behind men's sports as far as the economics.
Do we have a number on that? How many people that is going to pay? Let me see.
I don't. I just wanted to give Kyrie some props. So Ryan, you ever been to Magic City?
That's one of the few that I haven't been to. It's just too busy.
I haven't been because I only hear about Magic City when it's sort of like Lake Lanier, how Lake Lanier, I only hear about Lake Lanier when people die there. I don't want to go because people just die. Lake Lanier eats people. I only hear about Magic City when people are in trouble for going there, right? Lou Williams is the newest one. Lou, who played for the Hawks for a little bit.
South of Gwinnet's own.
Yeah, I miss Lou. He's got a dagger of a 3-ball. Ryan, do you want to tell us what happened to Lou?
Well, before I get into that, did y'all know how big of a player Lou is?
How big he is?
No, how big of a player. Not physical, but
you mean
how many women
hate the player, hate the game?
Yeah, he had 2 girlfriends or something.
He had 4 at once. I didn't know about this because I brought him up, and when I was writing the rundown, and the call was like, "Oh, Lulu," and I was like, "Who?" She's like, "Yeah, the guy that dates 4 girls at once."
Yeah, out publicly.
Yeah.
By the way, guys,
of course, Nikki knows the girls that Lou Williams is dating.
There's 12 players sitting out, so that's about
that is more than enough because of that one girl.
Is it 125,000? Well, that's the ones they have listed that are. That's about 125,000 per person.
Nice.
But continue.
Yeah. So
okay, really quick. I can barely keep up with one significant other. I value my alone time. And I just don't, I don't have a lot of bandwidth to maintain emotional relationships. How the fuck do people have 4 girlfriends at a time?
Keep them in line.
Other interesting story. The time I met Joe Johnson and he was trying to buy speakers from me, he came in with both of his girlfriends at the same time. And I was very confused because I addressed them as like they were friends. And then he made very clear to me that they were both his girlfriends. And he was gonna buy,
it makes – go ahead.
he was going to buy one of them a refrigerator and then another one something for their apartment. I think they lived together. I was like, what? How do you do this?
They're all getting their part out of it.
Right.
But it makes sense, though, because they're not
over
really
here like,
No, they're not really like girlfriends like you would, conventionally think. They're more like concubines, like where they sort of know their place in his life, like, and they know that they can be replaced, and they know all that. So they don't have the emotional baggage that you're.
Are you saying Lou Williams has got a harem?
Yeah. What is 4 girlfriends to you?
He's got geishas.
I was gonna say like a thruple, like I was giving them way more credit. Marco's over here like they know they place.
They do, like
they know not to have feelings or emotions.
Your name is
It's not
Wednesday.
possible.
You might pick one he has feelings.
Your name's Wednesday. To be fair, Wednesday's like the one day a week that I would just be like, "No, I'm good. Don't talk."
Yeah, I need my me time here.
Sorry, Ryan. Tell us about Lou Williams in Magic City, man.
So Lou Williams had an excused absence from the bubble, and the way it's been working, like Zion, for instance, had to leave for a family emergency. When you come back, you're supposed to get 4 days of quarantine, and you're going to be tested like normally every day. So he left. Lou Williams went back to Georgia for a family emergency, and then made a stop at Magic City. He was there enjoying himself as any NBA player would at Magic City on I think it was like a Friday night or a Saturday night. And he didn't post it on his Instagram. He didn't say anything about it. But everyone's favorite new rapper, Jack Harlow, who also slid into Nicole's DMs way before – all right, Marco. Who slid into Nicole's DMs way before he was the Jack Harlow he is now. Got him on camera, tagged him, was like, look at my boy Lou Williams in here, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, they're all in there not wearing masks. And people caught wind of it and were like, wait a second. I thought you were out of town because you had a family emergency. And you're supposed to be avoiding these type of situations. And so, of course, Lou Williams was like, well, no, I went there for wings. I had to go pick up dinner. And from Micah and everyone else telling us that Lou Williams is a big fan of the wings there, right? Doesn't he have one named after him, Micah?
Yeah.
Which one is
Barbecue lemon pepper?
Thanks, other Micah. So, yeah, what a dumbass. Like, you just got into a bubble. You just quarantined. You just got through this entire process. And you're like, you know what? Wings at a strip club, that'll do it.
Well,
to be fair, sorry, Micah, go ahead.
The funniest thing to me was Jack Harlow's reaction once everybody started to catch. No, that's an old video. I'm just reminiscing on old days. I miss my boy Lou.
I wrote the song a long time ago.
Bringing it back.
He had him on Instagram Live, and then he was like, "Nah, that was old, man."
People are like, "That's not how that works."
Some people think that hydroxychloroquine cures COVID, so you can't put anything past humans. So like in Lou's defense, like I'm one of those guys that like I laugh when people are like, "Yeah, I went to go get lunch at the Cheetah," and I'm like, "The fuck?" And you're like, "No, they've got a 5-star restaurant." I'm like, "Yeah, sure they do, bro." And like every time the Sopranos, the guys in the Sopranos would be eating at Bada Boom, I would like laugh about it. But I saw some pictures of Magic City's used this as a promotional tool. They've been tweeting out pictures of their wings and stuff like that, and shit looks good. And to be fair, Lou Williams, if I had a dish, like a wing dish named after me somewhere, I would go there because at that point that's sort of your spot, right? Like but if I were Lou Williams, I would also be embarrassed of being caught by Jack Harlow. Like, I thought Lou was like, I think he's like a rough and tumble kind of guy. Like Lou is like old NBA to me. So I don't have a high opinion of Jack Harlow though. That's just me.
He's okay.
Did you see the cat fight between Perk and Lou Williams that started after that?
And then trying to go with everybody.
And now people are just dunking on Kendrick Perkins. Just everywhere. Like everyone's just like, oh yeah, cool Perk. And then it's just like a compilation video of him like missing free throws and like just totally like somebody was like, you're the reason KD left Oklahoma City. I was like, damn. Which it's true. So the NBA is coming back on Thursday.
Can't wait.
Have you guys watched any of the games?
Yes.
Ryan, what was your takeaway?
Man, I like this. This is like this insight and these scrimmages is good. I mean, they're treating them like the stretch into I guess the first 8 games before the final 8 games. So the 16 games leading into the playoffs, and they're all trying to make playoff runs. They're treating it like that. And you can tell because these guys are really trying. I think I was, live tweeting you guys or giving you a play-by-play on when I watched that Lakers and Mavericks game, which was a hell of a game. And the Mavericks, they look really good. They look really good. They could be one of those teams that really no one gave, thought that they were going to do much just because what are they, like the 5th or 6th seed right now? But man, that offense hasn't missed a beat.
Watching Timmy drop dimes made me hurt, like physically ache. Micah, what was have you caught any of the scrimmage games?
I caught a couple. Like I was watching OKC, CP3 still balling. He's taking it seriously. He wants that ring, even if it isn't a full legitimate season. He wants that ring.
I mean, if you're gonna snatch a championship to cement your legacy, why not do it in a weird, helter skelter kind of year? I'm in on that.
Yeah.
Marco, you watched any of the scrimmages?
Yeah, I've been watching them. I mean, I haven't watched. The first day I was in, like you said about that Lakers Dallas game, and that was pretty good. But a lot of the other ones have been pretty bad, actually. A lot of these guys looking pretty rough and looking like. So I watched the Boston. Who was Boston playing? I forget who they were playing. That game was terrible. It was like 44 points at like into the third quarter, like for each team. It was a lot of shaking off the rust, but I know in that the first play I saw from LeBron in that Lakers game was like, damn, he's still the GOAT of the league.
Well,
not period, but
it's LeBron.
Yeah,
there's that level of
from damn near from the free throw line. He just like one step jammed it. I'm like, how the hell?
LeBron could probably be in like playoff shape, like at the drop of a hat. That man
right.
Just like he doesn't let himself he doesn't take the foot off the gas. Yeah, man. I don't know. Like, do you think that these 8 games leading up to the playoffs are going to be enough to shake the rust off? Or are we going to see some teams that should be really good get screwed in the seeding because they've only got 8 games to shake off the rust? And so they underperform like Boston. And so they come in as like a low seed.
I was I thought that we were going to – I didn't know that they're still keeping the West-East format is what I've heard. So that means that only one – so all the West teams are competing for the West side, and then there's only one East team that might get in above that. At least that's what I heard. I don't know if that's the case, but –
Well, they're doing it for – they're doing it for seeding, right? In the
right,
East.
but I thought it was going to be like a complete like seed
level
you
playing field.
You are. Yeah, I thought it was going to – but apparently that's not going to be like that. At least that's what I heard. And I was sort of disappointed that we might not get like, Phoenix and, New Orleans in there. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think someone's going to get screwed. Definitely.
How much better would this season of the NBA be if we ended up with a like Lakers Clippers final?
That's what I'm saying, right?
Like instead of like having it have to be against somebody in the East, right? Like Milwaukee, fine, but like, could you imagine if your last 4 were like Milwaukee, Lakers,
Rockets or something,
Rockets and the Clips, right? Like, could you imagine? Like, I just think because there have been a couple of years where the finals are always a letdown from like the Western Conference Finals, and then you watch the finals and it's just LeBron, like, or Golden State
KD doming.
it's just Steph Curry shooting from the bench. You know, it's just like with this like that weird Steph Curry motion. I do want to say really quick before we hop off the NBA, it's been 6 months since Kobe died.
Wow.
And you know, just seeing pictures of him with Gianna and stuff like that, the 6 months that I really feel like we're gonna miss, because you know Kobe would be in the bubble right now, just like watching, and like, because this is, you know, unprecedented history for the NBA. I think we're really gonna miss having him around. I think this is the first time that I was like, oh damn, you know, like, that's right, we won't have Kobe, where people are just like, Kobe, what do you feel about Giannis? And Kobe's just like, well, he ain't no Mamba or whatever, you know. And then I saw somebody else was talking about how they're sad that we won't ever get to see Gianna in the WNBA, because that would have been like the moment for them, you know, to have like somebody who's probably a superstar caliber. I have no doubts that Gianna could have played me out of my shoes, you know, like one-on-one.
You could have taken us 1-on-4.
I'm also bad at basketball. So there's another sport that's back.
No Bull love. We don't want it. We don't want it.
Oh, Bull. Hey, so Bull. This man hit a nasty. He had a block or a steal.
He blocked JJ Redick. JJ Redick stepped in from like the 3-point line in the corner and like tried to shoot like a floater and launched it so far up. And then Bull just kind of steps up and goes, nah, and swats it with ease.
His
and then hits a dagger on the other end.
Reddick's quote was hilarious, though. He goes, how the fuck did he get to that?
I can't wait for all the audio that we're going to get from this tournament.
Right.
But Bobo got drug tested the next day.
That's hilarious.
He got randomly drug tested the next day. Marco, what's your Bobo analysis, man? What's your feedback? How do you feel about him?
Did you say Micah or Marco? I didn't want
Marco.
Okay, sorry.
Marco.
But I just don't know where. I guess people didn't really watch his high school stuff, or because before he played that hurt season at, wasn't it Oregon?
Oregon.
That man was like, that jumper was already there. The handles were already there.
Well, so it was the injury.
Yeah, it was the injury, but I guess people were like, "Oh, I didn't know he could shoot. I didn't know."
Like,
wasn't this the guy that they were like? Wasn't this the guy that when he was in high school, they're like, "Isn't he like 40?" Like, weren't they like trying to say that he was like 25 or something like that?
It was either him or Taco.
No, it wasn't Taco.
I feel like it was Bol because like I remember hearing about him and then like not hearing about him for a little while and then seeing him playing and then seeing a picture of him being like, yeah, that man's. No, that was
someone else. The kid you're thinking of was from Jersey, and I don't think he made it.
No one knew Manute Bol's age, though. So,
I mean,
well, the crazy thing to me is Denver gets another steal of a player. They got Jokic at like pick 43. They got Bol at like 42.
Porter.
And yeah, Michael Porter, because these guys who are injured and people are passing on them, and then they're just like, oh, so we're just gonna get this extremely lengthy, athletic guy that nobody wanted to take a risk on. So
I wonder if that would be enough to build a championship team in like 3 years.
Bol, MPJ, and Jokic, yeah. And then if they keep Jamal.
Yeah, Jamal's gross. Jamal is such a good guard.
You got to count. You need like 3 years though, right? Because you got to get LeBron's got to start coming down. You got to blow up Portland, which will be soon if they don't win.
Right.
Clips are something to watch for.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to me to see if Denver can build, a team using those pieces, right? Because you're not gonna be like a superstar destination. If Atlanta can't get all the superstars to come, and we've got Magic City's wings, that's why Lou Williams was so mad he got traded off the Hawks, is because he was getting his wings every weekend.
How did he?
We traded him? Didn't he win like 6th man of the year?
Yep.
Like we traded him that year and he won Sixth Man of the Year, and we finished like
I don't know. I don't think he
4
started
seed
winning
or
six
something
man
like
until
that.
he was gone.
That's
Yeah,
what I
it-
mean. Is like after we traded him in the middle of that season, at the end of that season,
Right.
he went to like the Clips or something like that, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Lou Williams, he's the best."
Imagine if you were
He
on
didn't go to
that
the
team that
Clips.
went to the,
I think it was
conference
the
finals.
Rockets.
Yeah, he went to the Rockets from here. But imagine if you were on that team that went to the conference finals. Like that's what we needed. Somebody to take the last shot, like on our great year.
Yeah. So here's Lou laughing at us from Texas.
Here's the crazy thing: we've had Lou
Fresno
Williams
State
and
Texas.
Jamal Crawford.
I know, right?
Mhm.
And Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, Carmelo.
Lou was the starter and Jamal was the sixth man.
Ugh.
So
there's
disgusting.
there's another sport that's back. It's America's pastime. It's Major League Baseball. Now, when we were talking about Major League Baseball coming back, I was actually, and Brett said something about this too earlier. I was actually pretty bullish on Major League Baseball's chances of being able to play the full season that they had sketched out, right? These 60 games. Mostly because you don't have to be super close to these guys if you don't want to. I don't know. I don't know anymore. So Manfred decided to let the players vote on whether or not they bubbled. They had 3 locations that they could bubble. It was Arizona, Florida, and California, I think. Arizona would have been the best bet. The only problem is that it was like it's 116 degrees today in Tucson, and almost none of those stadiums were covered.
Jesus.
Yeah, so they couldn't do it. What, Ryan?
So this just happened. Joey Bosa of the Chargers just signed a 5-year, $135 million extension.
Man,
$78 million guaranteed.
isn't that racist guy?
No, that's his younger brother.
No,
Nick.
that's
his
his
brother.
little brother.
But probably him too.
So Joey's making more money than Nick.
Yep.
By quite a bit. Right
How
now.
much is that per year? 26?
135?
27.
Yeah.
27?
Extension is 27.
27. That's quarterback money.
Yeah, man.
Oh, so it's 102 million guaranteed total, 78 million guaranteed at the signing.
What?
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 Joey Bosa.
Chargers are retarded.
I love Joey Bosa, but he ain't worth Aaron Donald money.
Wow.
Micah, why didn't you make it to the NFL, man? You could have been a head coach and had $78 million.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, if I made it to the NFL, I probably wouldn't know any of y'all.
That's a sacrifice that would be worth it.
I
I would
would
say
take
my
78
friendship is worth $78 million.
I've known Ryan since 2001. Yeah, almost 20 years now. I would think really hard about giving up that whole thing for $78 million.
I wouldn't judge you for 1 minute.
Like,
Never
I would
look
tell
back.
him too. I would be like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna erase all memory of you from my head for $78 million."
I'd be like,
And then Mike would just
why?
be like, "I'd be like, bet, bro, yeah,
Yeah.
cool, man."
Just give me some.
Right? Toss me a couple milli real quick. Yeah, so MLB's back. And like the most Miami Marlins thing ever happened. I actually I hope the players are okay, but I love this story. So the Miami Marlins had a game against the Philadelphia Phillies 2 days ago. And they had a couple of players who came back positive for COVID. Now there's some I follow Dan Clark on Twitter. He's a sports guy. And he follows me, which is cool. So Dan was talking about how I think it was on the 20th, so about a week ago, he's talking about there's a team that wasn't breaking any MLB rules but was going out and partying. And he wouldn't say who it was, but then when this Marlins story happened, he retweeted, he's like, "Remember this?" Like, damn. Dan also tried to do 9 hot dogs, 9 beers, and 9 innings on opening day, and it did not go well for him. So I just want to call him out. So the Fish played the Phils, and the last game of their series, they had a couple guys were coming back positive. So the Marlins players got into a group chat and decided that they would just play the game anyway against the Phillies. And they did. So Major League Baseball's quarantine rules are defeated by the Miami Marlins players group chat. Like, could you imagine us getting together and just be like, hey, man, you guys just want to give people the Rona? The fallout from that is that about 40% of the Marlins roster is now confirmed positive for COVID.
Oh, my God.
They're super early in the infection period, so they're going to be out for weeks. The Marlins are, like, trying to find players off the streets to field a representative team to play for the next 2 weeks, which is a huge portion of the season, right? They're doing 60 games in 62 days or something like that. This is like half of their season, which is great for us as Braves fans. But the other thing that ended up happening is they canceled the Orioles-Marlins series because the Marlins were stuck in Philadelphia trying to figure out how to get back. The O's were in Miami and then went home to Baltimore. And then they had to at least postpone the Yankees-Phillies series that was supposed to be coming up. They said postpone. But the Marlins represent one of the largest new outbreaks in the country as far as, like, there wasn't an outbreak in this part of Miami or this part of Philadelphia, and now there is. So they're statistically significant, which is great. And also, they endangered Freddie was talking about how bad the Rona is, right? And, like, Freddie's in pretty good shape. Could you I just can't imagine. So it's the most Miami Marlins thing ever. But I want to let Micah sort of talk about the more important Brave-centric aspect of baseball coming back. And but before he does that, I want to give you a score update. Atlanta lost to Tampa 5-2.
Damn it. Quick question real quick. Did the Miami players get the coronavirus? So they already had it. They got it in Miami, and then they flew up to Philly, and that's when they found out they had it. Okay.
Yeah. So of course Philly, like, cleaned the locker rooms and everything like that, but that's not how it spreads. I don't know if you've been watching any of the video or watching any of the games, but, like, the guys in the dugouts are just acting like it's normal baseball. Like, they're all, like, sitting on top of each other, spitting everywhere. Ender's over there, like, draped all over somebody. You know, Ronnie's been wearing a mask.
Uh-oh. Wait.
You
got to stop. Can't play this stuff. This gets us demonetized. What are we looking at then?
Is that live?
Yeah, that just happened.
Wow, the Rockets are putting up 91 on the Celtics. Micah, tell us about the Braves' first game back, man. Or the first couple games back, specifically the last game against
the Rays.
Whoever it was. Yeah.
So, well, first things first, Austin Riley is a beast, and he's hitting big jacks. It's like to start the season, which I said, hopefully we could put him in the roster and get him in. And if he can hit something other than the fastball, he could be put up big numbers this year, which it looks like he's potentially could do it just in the 60-game season. But the offense has clicked for the most part. We've been putting up big runs, put up 5. We had a ridiculous number against the Mets the other night. Mm-hmm. We just piled it on.
14-1 or something like that.
Beat the brakes off of them. But unfortunately, while the offense is doing their job, our pitching staff isn't doing their job.
With the exception of Mike Soroka.
Soroka and Fried had a good start the other night. But Fultonevich, garbage B. I mean, seriously, dude, really? I could go out there and give up 6 runs in 3 innings. Come on, man. So he already, like, dude, I think they designated him for assignment before the game was even over, let alone.
It was like 15 minutes after. They were just like, nah, B.
Like, he was just hovering over the button to send him down. Got him.
Well, and the funny part is there's nowhere for him to go.
Yeah,
There's
like
no
I was about to
minor
ask,
leagues.
where does he go when he designated an assignment? Designate him for assignment.
Yeah, I was like, where did you get designated to? The couch?
That's how bad he had to be.
He got DFA'd to playing. He's got to play the show. He's in the
Find his rhythm again on the show.
yeah, man. Well, and Snicker said after they designated Fulte, he said that after that spring training summer camp, they called it summer camp. After that summer camp game where Fulte had, his ERA was like 9 or something like that. Snit was like, yeah, man, he's always been a stuffed guy, and after that summer camp game, we told him, got to wait and see. It was basically like, we're going to see how this is. He didn't have any velocity. He didn't have any fastball command. It's all the same stuff we've been saying about Fulte. But it's funny when Snicker came right out and was like, Snicker basically confirmed that Fulte's only on the roster because he could throw like 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and he isn't
Used
now.
to.
Yeah. So now it's like, well, you're done. I also want to give props to Snit, Micah. I know that I don't think you're a big Snit guy, but one of the reasons why I like Brian Snicker is because he's got those like baseball manager talk, So like when Austin Riley hit that monster home run, right? Snicker was like, whoop. He said something like, whoop, boy, that boy's swinging the magic stick out there, man. It's crazy, man. He's really got some stuff. I was like, yeah. I love it when like baseball managers say just the weirdest shit, And Snicker's like the MVP of that. Like, who needs a Gabe Kepler when you can have Brian Snicker? I love it.
Man, I like Snicker though. Snicker is a pretty good coach. It's just like in regular season he's great, but he's made some questionable decisions in the playoffs. That was my only criticism of him. Like pitching Fulte 2 games against the Cardinals instead of going with Soroka or Freed. So
he's a little too
pitching
conservative
at all.
Right.
Well, Fulte pitched to Jim the first game against the Cardinals, and his first and pitched a really great game. We wound up winning that game, and then you come back to him in game 5, and he got shelled. Like we gave up 13 runs in the first inning or something like that.
He
Was over
folded.
before it
10,
started.
I think. Yeah.
10, yeah.
The Braves offense seems really feast or famine right now. Like we had that game against the Mets where, so we lost the opening day game 1-0 in that duel between Soroka and DeGrom, which was like not the way I want to come back to baseball. That was so boring. It was just pitchers just being like, I'm a really good pitcher. No, I'm a really good pitcher. And then Cespedes hits his first home run in like 2 years. And of course that's what won. Fuckers. But we won that game where we were down, was it like 7-2 or something like that?
Yeah.
We ended up winning 9-8 because we had like a 7-run 9th inning or something like that.
That was our last episode. We were like, oh, we're getting smashed.
Yeah, well, it seems like the Braves offense will either put up, like 9 or 14 or 2.
Get stalled out.
Yeah, they get stalled out. So it really and we've got like crazy strikeout numbers. Like this is the problem with this kind of roster that we've built. We've got a lot of like sluggers on there, right? Like from Ozuna to Riley to Ronnie. Like we've got a lot of guys that'll strike out or they'll, launch a 400-foot bomb. And it seems like if we get like competent pitching, like the Rays have got a pretty good staff. And that's actually when Chipper was on the broadcast a couple of nights ago, one of the ESPN games that they had, they asked Chip who his dark horse was to win the World Series this year. And he said the Rays, because they've got a really talented pitching staff. So it seems like we come up against even mediocre or moderately talented pitching staff and we get stuffed. So that's something to watch out for. I think those strikeout numbers, as well as the issues we've talked about the starting rotation depth not really being there. Lieutenant Dansby. A couple of notes about Dansby. The first one is he's on like a 5-game hitting streak or something like that. He's hit every game this season, which is pretty impressive for Dansby. But the other thing is that he had a lead-off RBI double in the 10th inning, which is the first time in history that this has happened, because Major League Baseball is instituting these new extra innings rules, right? So you'll start with a guy on second. All of the extra inning games that have been played up until this point finished in the 10th inning. So these extra inning rules are working. We're not looking at those like 15 inning Red Sox Yankees games that take 6.5 hours, but I think that the fact that Dansby hit a leadoff double that scored a run is a pretty neat thing for Lieutenant Dans. I hope he stays hot long enough for the season to end and for him to matter, because he got picked right before Bregman, and Bregman has been really good, except when he's getting hit by pitches.
Well, I mean, Dansby last year was on a tear to start the season and then got hurt and then came back, and it was just like he couldn't buy a hit after he came back. But it's like he starts off the season hot, and so in a 60-game season, if he stays healthy, he could be scary.
This is one of those things that I think we talked about before the season started, where like the Braves can start off really hot and then they taper off and then they never catch back up. But because the season's so short, maybe we'll stay hot long enough for it to matter. I've always thought that Dansby was an upgrade over Andrelton Simmons overall. I think Simba is a top 5 defensive shortstop in Major League Baseball. The man he's got a glove. And he's continued to play very, very well out in Anaheim, but he could not hit. And we're talking about the National League. You need somebody who can hit, especially middle infielder, right? So Dansby's got some good chemistry with Ozzy there at second base, right? I think Ozzy's a better offensive player, but I think Dansby's got a better package. My question has always been that Dansby's, he hasn't hit much above 200 for most of his career. Was he averaging like 260s, I think? And you really want your middle infielders to be up closer to 300.
Yeah.
So Freddie looks okay. When I was tuned into the game earlier, he's batting 200, but it's early in the season.
He and Acuna are both batting 158 on the season right now.
It's early though.
It's 6 games.
Corona ball. They said this is the first time that not a single team went 3-0.
Yep. It's the first time in 62 years, I think, that not a single team went 3-0, which is pretty cool. I look forward to watching as much baseball as I can starting today because the season's going to get canceled because the Marlins are going to give everybody the Rona. Thanks, Miami. Is there anything more Miami than that, man?
Let's go.
Hey, let's hop in the group chat and just, let's give at least they gave the Phillies the Rona, Bruce Hooper's going to go down with the Rona. He's going to be like, this is a clown virus, bro. Sorry. I hope everybody's okay. The Rona sounds like it's nasty. All I'm saying is if anybody has to get the Rona, Donald Trump and his family is on my list of number ones. Okay. And then the Fish and the Phillies are pretty close after that. I might not be watching as much baseball yet anymore, but old hate dies slowly. So I think our last topic that we've got for tonight is Major League Soccer. Atlanta United crashed out of MLS's back. I think we talked about that last week. I think we had just lost last week.
We had one more game to lose.
That's right. Or we played on Tuesday.
We played on Tuesday.
Yeah, we were losing while we were recording.
Yeah.
Right. And then we lost one more game.
We were the only team to not score in MLS's back. And it was embarrassing enough that Darren Eales fired Frank de Boer like 2 days later.
After listening to our podcast, obviously.
Yeah. It's funny because I like to go into the replies on Twitter for like MLS articles, and like that article was like Atlanta United parted ways with Frank de Boer. There were so many Orlando fans with like Orlando City like scarves in their profile pictures or whatever, being like, but he won two trophies yesterday. That just shows you how shitty Atlanta's front office is. And I jump in, I'm just like, oh man, yeah, you would have kept that guy, which is why you have no trophies. Because you would have been like, well, he won 2 trophies last year. Meanwhile, we're like, So the way it worked right? Last year, Frank started his 3-4-3 system, right? And we looked like shit. Then he transitioned to 4 at the back, more attack-oriented style, and we won the Open Cup, and we're one missed PK away from probably winning another MLS championship. Let's be completely honest here. I think we would have beat Seattle. And we looked pretty good. You know, we beat Club America in the Campeones Cup. We looked like crap during CONCACAF Champions League, but whatever. Then this year he started back with his 3-4-3 bullshit, right? Joseph's not there to bail him out. He was losing the locker room. You know, last year there was that when Frank's old club Ajax got knocked out of the Champions League, the players were cheering because they were so mad at Frank de Boer. Joseph apparently left the training field almost a dozen times over the season because he was so mad. So the only time that we've looked competitive was in the second half against Cincinnati, when Frank went to a 4 at the back attack-oriented formation. Then the next game against Columbus, a must-win game against Columbus, he went back to his 3-4-3 bullshit. And then at some point during the second half, he subbed off his only striker. So he had like all midfielders and no striker. And then he subbed off. He was like putting Mulroney on. It was bad. All of the criticism that everybody had of Frank de Boer before the season started last year came true.
Right.
Like all of it. It's like he was reading tea leaves. So Stephen Glass is the interim manager for Atlanta United. They're looking at a bunch of Mexican talent. So I was talking to Carlos a little bit about this. Carlos was like, who do you think we could get like a second tier coach from South America? It's like, I don't think you understand. Tata Martino coached Barcelona.
All right.
He went from Atlanta United to coaching the Mexican national team. You know, Frank de Boer coached 2 teams in the Premier League. We had interest from Scaleto, the guy who's over at LA Galaxy right now. He was on our short list. Like, Atlanta can hire one of these coaches. And because coaches don't apply to the salary cap, I don't think we can just spend the dough. There's some talk about Rafael Benitez, who most recently coached Miggy over in Newcastle, who also has coached Barcelona. I like your co-star, Marco. But there's talk about like South American coaches, some Mexican coaches. We're drawing big names because MLS has lots of viewership in Europe, more than the Mexican League and South American leagues do. So a lot of these coaches see it as like a step up over to Europe. So I think we'll be fine there. But the breaking news for Atlanta United, we were talking about, you remember we were talking about missing Nagbe, right? Who, you guys know that Darlington Nagbe's wife liked my tweet reply. I posted that meme of Wolverine touching Darlington Nagbe on like the picture, you know, like missing him. And because Nagbe had like a 97% pass completion on his through passes against us. And like Greg Berhalter is there like begging Nagbe to come back to the national team. He's like, Jesus, please. But Nagbe's wife is just like, yeah, what a bunch of idiots. Like, you know, Nagbe wanted to be with Caleb Porter, whatever. But we've been missing that box-to-box midfielder, that number 6. But ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Gonzalez, who's a 21-year-old midfielder from Los Rayados, Monterrey. We played them in the CONCACAF Champions League last year. We lost to Monterrey. He posted a Instagram post today saying it was the last dance in Monterrey. We are apparently finalizing a contract with him for a season-long loan. He plays the number 6 midfield. He has 3 caps for the Mexican national team, and he won the CONCACAF U20 championship while representing the United States. So he had dual citizenship. He plays for Mexico, and he made the switch to the Mexican national team in 2018. He is a technically proficient midfielder who's displayed a decent eye for a pass. He usually plays as a number 6 role, as a deep-lying playmaker, and a 3-man midfield. Or, however, he can use his talents in a more advanced midfield role or as part of a double pivot in a 2-man midfield. So Stephen Glass likes to play a 4-man backfield in Atlanta United too. I would not be surprised if we move to that like 4-2-3-1 or
Where
4-3-3.
What experience does Glass have to where like what his tendencies are?
He's coached the twos for the last 2 seasons.
Okay.
And he rolls out a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3 traditionally. I don't know if our personnel will change that at all, but I wouldn't be surprised if we switch to a 4-man backfield. Tata really liked a four-man back line as well, but he switched to the 3-5-2 because we didn't have enough defensive shape. But we would kill him on the counter when we loaded up that many midfielders. And also it let Miggy do whatever the fuck Miggy wanted to do. I'm going to be super interested to see how we rebound. I would not be surprised if we started winning games emphatically now that Frank is gone and we have somebody who actually has like an opinion on how soccer should be played. Also with Jurgen Damm and the possibility of Gonzalez coming in, we might be seeing – we've got tons of wingers. It's just a question of who we're going to play at that 9. And that's your breaking.
I said Frank, personality-wise, seems like the kind of guy that when he gets fired, the troops rally around whoever replaces him.
Well, I guess the idea was
dry.
that he had tactical ideas that he didn't know how to communicate. So he did a really good job at Ajax because the players there had played Dutch soccer. So he didn't have to teach them how to play. But here in Atlanta, he promised that he would keep playing that attacking style that Tata had. And instead he was like, so we're going to play 3-4-3. And then he wouldn't tell anybody. Like if you watch the games, like Pete and Zeke and them, like no one knew what they were doing, right? Like everyone looked super lost and confused. And I guess that's because he's a really bad teacher, they said. So he's gone, thank God.
Right. Compared to Tata, he wasn't very demonstrative either. Like he's just sort of phased out on the sideline, just sort of chilling.
Sat in the sidelines in his skinny jeans. You could tell he was screwed though. That last game against Columbus, where in the second half, Carlos Bocanegra, our technical director, came down and sat on the field. Bocanegra has stayed completely out of the way that the team operates the whole time. But he came down, I was talking to Jeff Laurentowicz. And then, 2 days later, Frank got fired. And Bocanegra is like, why do we look so fucking terrible? And Jeff's like,
it's this guy.
Ryan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, so, we all knew that De Boer was the root of our problems. Do you think that also means that players that have drastically underperformed when they got here, that it was because of him? And they're not as bad as we thought they were?
I am cautiously optimistic. I'm going to play a wait and see. I think that you are talking specifically about one player, Gonzalo, if you will.
Yep, that's the one.
The little PT bird.
Little PT.
So there are some things about PT that I don't think are Frank's fault. Like when he tries to hit a cross and he digs his foot into the turf and he falls down. Or when someone breathes on him and he falls down, you can tell that he's never played CONCACAF soccer before. Like, you're not going to get those foul calls, man. Like, people beat each other up. You got to be tougher than that. You're not in Europe yet. But I don't think that you win South American Player of the Year without being incredibly talented.
Yeah.
And especially because at River Plate, he was just a goal scoring. Like, if you saw some of the goals he scored at River Plate, you were just like, and so I don't know what his accuracy issues are right now. I think part of it might be that he doesn't know what he's doing or what his teammates are doing. So he can't focus on doing what he needs to do. It's the same thing with Zeke, right? Like you'd see these guys come on and they looked lost. We're like, why do you not know how to play soccer, you idiots? Well, it's probably because they were told just like, you play Dutch soccer. And then they just didn't know what that meant. Which, also, I don't understand why they brought in a Dutchman when the whole team has been built around Southern and Central American talent and that style of soccer.
Never
bring in
that either.
You didn't know that they spoke Dutch in Central and South America?
Well, De Boer speaks fluent Spanish.
Oh, does he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and French. But his coaching philosophy is Dutch. And they have different play styles down south. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put press pause on my PT Martinez is a bust assessment until after we see how he performs with our next actual manager or next actual coach, not Stephen Glass, but the next like real deal coach. And then I'll label him a bust if he doesn't perform to my expectations, which are astronomically and absurdly high.
What if Glass does very well? Like, what if he like gets us to the playoffs and we make a deep run?
No
matter.
Mm-mm. This is a that would be an MLS move.
Mm-hmm.
So a good corollary to that would be Freddie Ljungberg in Arsenal, right? Freddie was one of the academy coaches. He's a former player. He took over when they fired Unai Emery halfway through the season, and he won a couple games, lost a couple games, whatever. They told Freddie that he was not their permanent head coach, and then they went and hired Mikel Arteta. Your coach doesn't just have to be a technically good coach. He has to be someone that players want to come play for. Right. And if Atlanta wants to be, it would be an MLS move to promote from within, right? But like Stephen Glass is not going to get South American talent. Frank de Boer coached in the Premier League. You know, Tata coached Barcelona. You want to pull a guy who's got that kind of oomph, because unlike in the NFL or Major League Baseball, players have a say in transfers as well in soccer. So you can't just trade people. You can't just trade DeAndre Hopkins. Right. You want to be the kind of coach. You want to have a coach that has some prestige, especially if you're trying to out MLS.
Right.
So unless Stephen Glass goes undefeated, and we have 3 players break the goal record, then I would be like, oh, okay. Interesting note, Stephen Glass played for Newcastle United, which Arthur Blank is interested in buying an ownership stake in, and where Miggy plays now.
Nice.
Okay, that's it for sports. Wow, this has been a long one, and I just started talking about soccer. I'm sorry about that. Anybody have a lightning round question? I don't think we had one.
No, I got a loser of the day for you though.
Who's our loser of the week?
It's Sam Coonrod. I don't know if
Frank de Boer.
Yeah, de Boer. Coonrod, the pitcher for the Giants, who refused to kneel with his entire team because he said he's a Christian, and the only person he kneels before is God. And he said something. He said something about Black Lives Matter being Marxist.
Which, yeah.
So.
Wait, what? Black Lives Matter Marxist?
Well, I mean, go for
it.
Lionel.
I mean,
we're talking about seizing the means of production is a whole nother episode. Marxist isn't an insult in a world where our next coronavirus relief package included $300 million for Apache helicopters and nothing for preventing people from getting foreclosed upon. 49% of renters in the state of Georgia are at risk of getting foreclosed on and evicted now that eviction protections have lapsed. And also we have lost our $600 a week enhanced unemployment benefits. Saying something is Marxist is not an insult in a capitalist economy, which sucks people dry so that Jeff Bezos can add $18 billion to his net worth in one day last week. Aubrey Huff and whoever this guy is on the Giants and everybody else who disagrees with me on that can lick my whole taint.
Lick my dicka.
Yeah, lick my dicka.
Oh yeah.
Let's skip the lightning round. Let's do Rex. What's a good rec?
Well, books or audiobooks.
I had something for this, and then I forgot it. Micah, pick our rec category for the week.
Let's go. Favorite barbecue place.
Did we just do that?
I feel like we've done that before.
We've done it.
Already did it.
Okay. All right. Shit. Running out of stuff to Oh,
Favorite banana flavored ice cream.
Favorite old school electronics store?
Banana pudding, Bluebell banana pudding ice cream. Easy. Favorite old school electronics store, probably Radio Shack, but
Media Play.
Media Play is a good one. What was the FYE?
Yeah.
They're pretty good. Shout out to malls back in the day. Let's skip the Rex. We've been doing this for 3 hours. I'm tired.
My brain's off.
Yeah. Thanks to Brett Kollmann for coming on the show. What a great guy. And that was awesome. Our normal shout outs, Sway Sauce. They got some merch dropping soon. Hop on it. On Friday, don't forget, we are serving fish and grits to the midday show on 92.9 The Game. We might have some Sway Sauce there with them. Micah's maybe, I don't know. Micah, Chef Flu.
Yep, Chef Flu, Flu University, or Loving the Flu on Instagram. Check him out. His food is amazing.
That's right. Register to vote. Georgia's got a runoff election coming up soon. But please, dear God, register to vote and then vote. Our intro and damn, I'm tired. Our intro and intermission music are by Juan Solano. You can find him on Instagram at JamesJuan007. And the Fish and Grits podcast is brought to you by Anchor, which is what we're going to use to drop this baby after we process all 3 hours of it. Thank you for coming along with us. We will see you next week. Bye.
See ya.